telling me.
Won 2, right?
Yeah, you've won 2 in the last 3 years. 2 out of 3, 67% of the last 3 national championships. So don't tell me it's not a major sport on campus. It is, okay? It is.
And again, for those listening, Diesel said if you just tuned in.
I love how you're putting all this on me.
I want to be clear. We're throwing financials out the window because we're not having a financial discussion.
Right.
But while I am putting it on you, I don't have any pushback.
We know.
I don't have any pushback.
We know that football is the cash cow on campus. I mean, we don't have to dig into the financials to find out if basketball even makes money.
Sure.
At Clemson, because most basketball programs don't. Like even the best of the best, you know. I'm sure North Carolina makes money, is profitable, is what I'm trying to say. Not earns revenue. I'm saying turns a profit.
Right.
I'm sure North Carolina, Kentucky, Kansas, they turn a profit. Gonzaga probably does, just because, well, they don't have that much money to spend. They don't have a football program up there. So I'm sure Gonzaga, being, you know, the big sport on campus there, I'm sure that probably turns a profit. I could be wrong. But outside of that, most schools in college basketball don't turn a profit. Hell, very few schools in football turn a profit, even with the tremendous amount of money that you get each and every year from being in a Power 5 conference.
Hey, in 2021, of 229 public Division I athletic basketball programs, that's a big number, Diesel, 229. How many were profitable? I'm
going to guess 6.
18.
18. Really? Yep. Was Clemson in that list?
I'm going to look. I would guess no.
Yeah.
I would guess no. I don't see that. I know that you would say like Duke, of course. All right, here's the 18. Or let me look and see if Clemson's in there. I see Oregon. I see Georgia. I see Florida, Alabama. I see Auburn. Guess
Georgia
what?
basketball is profitable.
No Clemson Tigers in the most profitable of the 18. Clemson's not in the 18.
Clemson basketball loses money.
Guess who was 19? South Carolina.
Really?
On the outside, just one on the outside.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
Well, look at you, South Carolina.
I can't find Clemson.
Look at you coming up in the world, almost making money with your basketball program.
Which is good, because that means they're probably breaking even.
Yeah. Well, that, you know, you'd have to look back at that and say, all right, what is that a function of how much they're paying their coach, of how much they're spending? I mean, it's a heck of a lot easier to spend money than to save money than to make more money in revenue. So you could cut your costs. But anyway, that's not the point that we're discussing here.
Right.
I think it is a legit possibility on the surface, not making this a financial discussion, that Clemson football is in danger of falling to last place in the major men's sports on campus. And it's a result, Cole, of the 2024 season ahead. What could happen? I think it very easily could happen. You Tolos, what do you think? 71307, start your text with keyword fan. You can message us on the stream, on Facebook, on Twitter, or on YouTube. Jump in there. Also tell us where you're Toloing from. We'd love to know.
Now, let me before I play the devil's advocate here, Diesel, are we basing this I know it's not based on money, but just in terms of recent success, right?
Yeah, I'm just talking about success.
Okay.
This is entirely based on success. I mean, hey, you can talk about attendance, you can talk about donations, you can talk about IPTAY membership signups, yada, 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 all you want to, Cole. But all of that still goes into what we're not making this, which is a financial discussion. I mean, even with all of that, most of these programs aren't making any money. So again, I'm talking just success on the field.
Yeah.
I mean, hell, 35,000 people were packing out Doug Kingsmore Stadium this past weekend for Clemson versus Coastal Carolina. That is a program that is as healthy as it gets, right?
It is very healthy right now. I just think that
got to assume that the same thing is happening for soccer games. I've never seen photos and video. I would assume that the campus is buzzing for soccer games also.
The only pushback you would get is the fact that Clemson football, while they haven't been as successful, is still more popular. Right?
It is.
And that's a leg of the argument, but we're talking about just recent success.
Right. And I want to look at attendance as part of the argument, not the whole argument. I want to look at finances as part of the argument, not the whole argument, because, you know, then you shut down the argument where you can't have the conversation anymore.
Here's what I'll tell you. I'll tell you, if Clemson football were still winning the ACC every year, they would still be unless another program won a national championship like soccer, if Clemson football consistently wins the ACC, which they were for a long time, not now, they're number one. With them falling off and not winning the ACC, I do agree with you that they're not the most successful men's program right now.
So let's look at what Clemson football would have to achieve to very clearly be off the bottom line here, okay? Let's look at their schedule. Let's look at some predictions and just simple guesses of what we think might happen. By the way, Cole, Clemson has an awful lot of questions football-wise going into this season. Can Clemson football finish inside the top 16? As of right now, that's what they need to do. Now, if Clemson baseball advances, that number becomes top 8 because the basketball team made the Elite 8, because the baseball team would have made the Elite 8, Omaha, if they advance out of this series. So as of right now, Clemson has to achieve at least number 16 in the country this year, just in a very simple, rudimentary way of looking at it.
16,
to not be the worst major men's program on campus. And I say that worst in air quotes. I say it facetiously.
Because there has to be a worst.
Right, because there has to be a worst. But Cole, going into this season, fans have a lot of questions about Cade Klubnik, about Garrett Riley, about Dabo Swinney's portal policy. And if they don't have questions about that, they've already drank the Kool-Aid, and we can't have a rational discussion with them anymore. Clemson has only finished outside of the top 16 4 times in Dabo's tenure. 2 of those times were, I think, his first 2 seasons. 2023 was one of those years. So you're coming off of one of your worst seasons under Dabo Swinney in his tenure since 2009, I think it is. Looking at their schedule, Cole, the ceiling is 11-1. I think you very easily, regular season wise, could go 11-1. I don't see you beating Georgia. Sorry, unless something crazy happens, in which case we got to eat a lot of crow. We're going to put some either mustard sauce or vinegar-based sauce on that crow. But I think the ceiling for Clemson football is 11-1. Floor is 9-3 with losses to Georgia, Florida State, and one of Louisville, South Carolina, and don't laugh, App State. I think there's if you get demoralized against Georgia or have a letdown loss against Georgia, it may come back to bite you next week. Again, that's why I put it 3rd on the list as a potential, but it's very well possible. They lost 3 games last year. They very well could lose 3 games again this year.
Spartanburg J says, this has actually been my beef with Brownell over the years. Every sport but basketball was successful. Now the heat's on football, and Dabo # all in.
So you're saying Brad Brownell should lose a little bit more to take the heat off of
Absolutely, right? I guess that's what the consensus is here.
I thought he was a basketball coach, not a scapegoat.
Yeah.
Cole.
Lose more, bro.
Yeah.
You were too successful this past year, and now it's making Dabo look bad. The reality of it is Dabo's still Dabo. Clemson football still Clemson football, but I will turn this conversation to an interesting spin. Give it an interesting spin, if you will, Diesel. While I agree with you, if we're throwing financials and popularity out, I will agree with you. I will say this, and I teased this yesterday with you. I think Eric Bakich is the most loved Clemson coach right now. I mean, listen, Clemson fans are going to love Dabo till the name of time. But he's the hot name. Him getting on the wall in the outfield after that regional championship win on Sunday night.
Coaches do that.
Diesel, that went viral on Twitter. Yeah. I posted it. It was all over Twitter on Sunday. And I'll tell you this, there's a lot of love for a coach that players and fans can relate to. Man, they get fired up. And listen, again, they're going to love Dabo till the end of time. They should. He won 2 national championships. Eric Bakich hasn't won a national championship yet while it's still a second year. I think they love Eric Bakich.
So, Cole, if Clemson football goes 11-1 this year, it's a moot conversation. They're finishing inside at least minimum the top 12, right? They're getting into the college football playoff 100%. If they go 11-1. But let's just say, for the sake of argument, that the floor happens. You go 9-3 again. That means probably no ACC championship, which was one of your prerequisites right there.
Correct.
Iowa and Louisville were the only 2 Power 5 schools last year who won 10 games and did not finish inside the top 16. So it has happened, Cole. You could win 10 games and not finish inside the top 16. Most of those teams sitting just outside of that we're 9-win teams. So if you have a repeat of what you had last year with 3 losses, you could very well, based on history, find yourself sitting outside the top 16. I don't think, the odds of losing 3 games again this year are high at all. I mean, I would say there's a 15% chance to 20% chance or less that this actually happens, that the floor happens, a 9-3 season again, Cole. But I mean, odds makers, they're setting Clemson's over-under win total at 9.5. FanDuel has Clemson's win total over-under at 9.5. So they're right there in the same ballpark we're in, Cole. And if you find yourself outside of the top 16, again, in this rudimentary argument, football is the worst major men's sport on campus.
It's not that's not going to be a pleasing argument, right, to Clemson fans out there. They're not going to love hearing you say that. However, if you throw popularity and financials out of it, basketball, I would argue that until this year, right, was the least successful until that Elite Eight run. But listen, there's no doubt.
2 years, it's probably baseball and basketball fighting it out.
That's true. There's no doubt that Clemson football and Dabo Swinney have the pressure on them. I don't think that anybody is hitting the panic button with Clemson. I know that Dabo's talked about nationwide because of his stance on the portal and his usage of the portal. But the reality of it is, even though he's won 2 national championships, there is pressure. And I don't mean pressure in terms of like hot seat pressure. I just mean pressure, Diesel, in terms of being an elite team in the nation's eyes, being a nationally ranked team, a team that people look at you from Oregon to New York and say, man, Clemson's legit. Because the reality of it is right now, Clemson's not looked at that way across the nation.
And you've got to do it soon, because I'm going to tell you right now, that shine is wearing off the apple very fast nationwide. That aura, that Clemson football aura that you gained is falling off. That's why you have so many different outlets coming after Dabo Swinney and his transfer portal policy and his stances on the NIL and all these other things, right? They're coming after him because what he's doing is not yielding the same results that it once did, that he once achieved. So, like, it's not unfounded, Cole, when all these people start coming after him. It's because he's not winning the way that he used to. And if he was winning the way that he used to, people would be saying, "Oh, this man's a genius. He's doing everything the right way." And, we should build the entire sport in Dabo's image, not just his own franchise, not just his own team.
The only thing that I'll push back on, not push back to you on, but push back to the national narrative. If Dabo Swinney was not the only coach that hasn't adapted to the portal, I don't think we'd be talking about Dabo Swinney and the drop-off with Clemson football. For example,
if it was Dabo and Chip Kelly and Mike Norvell and a handful of guys, Kalen DeBoer, if they were all achieving big things, or some of them were achieving big things every year with a similar policy, then you would say, okay, here's these couple of mavericks who are doing things the old school conservative way.
And I'll say this, if Dabo if he would have at least dabbled in the portal enough for this not to be a conversation topic, I don't think it would be as much of a conversation topic. But because he hasn't even dabbled in it, because he's completely not used it, I think that's why it is a conversation that it is nationwide. But if he would have just used it a little bit, I don't know that the conversation would be as heavy as
and before somebody starts texting it out and typing it out, because I know you are, well, they got to choose you too. Stop drinking the Kool-Aid, okay? Stop regurgitating what you're hearing from Dabo specifically. We know, well, at least we're told that Clemson is using the transfer portal. They are making offers out there, just nobody's accepting the offers. Well, it's because you're not making good enough offers.
Sure. Or to the right people.
Right.
I do want to go and switch things up. I had something else tabbed for the 320 segment. However, we are doing a little bit of an audible. Things might be trending. Again, this is all hearsay, but things might be trending towards a certain coach for South Carolina. I've gotten a few text messages, nothing official, nothing from a source that has an exact confirmation, but I have seen some trending text towards a certain coach. We'll tell you who that coach is next. This is Wire to Wire. He's Diesel. I'm Cole Bryson, and this is the Fan Upstate. What's up, Jacob Rogers in the stream? We're live. Not only can you listen to Wire to Wire, you can watch Wire to Wire on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter every single day. We appreciate you. Already up to 103 on the stream today. We'll continue to grow it. We need your help, though. Share it, subscribe, whatever you need to do, retweet it so we can get those views up. We appreciate you being a Tolo. That stands for turn it on, leave it on. Diesel, I've gotten a few text messages last night and today. None of the text messages from anybody with the University of South Carolina, obviously, because nothing is official, and I do believe South Carolina will continue to take their time in terms of a week or two with this decision. However, the text messages that I have gotten, including one not long ago, are pointing more and more towards a coach for South Carolina that's already on staff. And the trend that I've seen on Twitter today is there are a lot of Carolina fans that are starting to come around to Monty Lee as the next head coach. Hasn't happened yet, but here's my question to you and to our audience, Gamecock fans, Tolos. If you make some phone calls and you're Ray Tanner, how many no's should it take to hire Monty Lee? If you call the Duke coach, if you call the Mississippi State coach, if you call the assistant coach at Tennessee, there's 3 right there, right? How many calls, how many no's should you have to get if you're Ray Tanner to say, okay, you know what? Monty's on staff. He already in the last 2 days, Diesel has landed recruits, 2 top recruits from in-state. He's doing a good job. He's obviously been known as a recruiter. But text in 71307. Start your text with the word fan. Diesel, I'm going to say somewhere between 3 and 5 no's before I pull the trigger on Monty Lee.
Yeah, I got to get to at least 5. I mean, we've gone down the list over the past couple of days. Pollard from Duke, the head coach at East Carolina, Cliff Godwin, the Wake Forest coach, the Tennessee assistant. I mean, I think you got to get at least to there. I mean, those are just the kind of the easy names for us to name off. There are probably, a handful of other candidates on Ray Tanner's short list that he would pick up and make a phone call to. Yeah. Landon Powell would at least, I think he at least deserves a phone call. I mean, if you're that department and you want to ensure that Landon Powell never becomes your head coach, don't bother calling him. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, that would be, we have been on this station very critical of some of the decisions that South Carolina has made and some of the gaffes that South Carolina athletic department has made. This would be a huge gaffe if you didn't at least pick up the phone and call him.
I have heard, I don't know if there's any truth to it or not. I've heard that Cliff Godwin at ECU, is holding out Diesel for the Ole Miss coaching job. Again, is there any truth to that? I don't know. But I have heard from multiple people that Mike Bianco doesn't have much left in his career. Maybe he goes a little bit longer than people expect, but there are rumors about him retiring. He's only 57, so he's not old. But I have heard rumors that maybe Cliff Godwin's holding out for Ole Miss. I personally don't think Cliff Godwin is coming to South Carolina. I would say that I would probably, if I have to hire Monty Lee, I'm probably going to get told no by Cliff Godwin. I'm probably going to get told no by I don't know, like if I'm trying to think who my second phone call would be to, I just don't know that there's a big drop-off between the top 3. I know there's a lot of candidates out there, and we've talked about them yesterday, but there would have to be 3 to 5 no's for sure for me to give Monty the job. And again, Monty's a good coach.
So, Cole, I'm putting up a poll right now on the Fan Upstate Twitter.
Okay.
Love for everybody to go vote. All you Tolos, go give us a vote on this. We're hearing more and more unofficial rumors that Monty Lee will be the next head coach at South Carolina. How would you Gamecock fans feel about this? Your choices are going to be stoked, LFG, okay, but underwhelmed, disappointed, or angry?
I would say the middle option will probably get the most votes. And what was the middle option again?
Disappointed or okay with it but underwhelmed.
I would say okay with it but underwhelmed if I had to guess. Now, I'll say this. I have seen a lot of South Carolina fans on Twitter in the last 48 hours that have had a reaction to Monty Lee and the possibility. Again, I'm not saying that you should base and hire, or choose a guy based on what the fan base thinks, right? I'm not saying listen to the fans and see what they think. I'm just saying the fans that I have seen that are very vocal on Twitter, I think that the majority of them are saying no, they wouldn't love Monty Lee. I do think, though, that as time goes on, Diesel, I've started to see a little bit of already today. As time goes on, I do think South Carolina fans will come around if Monty Lee's the hire. The issue that no South Carolina fans want to admit, it has nothing to do with Monty Lee, the coach. It has nothing to do with Monty Lee, the person. It has everything to do with Monty Lee was at Clemson. He failed at Clemson. And South Carolina fans do not want a Clemson retread to come back.
I asked the question, Cole, did Monty Lee really fail at Clemson? And I think that you're right. A lot of Gamecock fans are going to hold it against him, that he was a South Carolina guy and that he took the job at Clemson. They're going to hold that against him. And there's nothing you can do about those kind of people. Those people are idiots, okay? But he had a 640 win percentage at Clemson. The ACC was a good conference then, still is. 640, really good. That would be the best coach you've had, the best winning percentage head coach you've had at a Power 5 school since Ray Tanner, who was 700. 700, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And we've talked about it over the last couple of days. What were Chad Holbrook's winning percentages? What were Kingston's winning percentages? They were down in the mid to low fives, I think, 500, just over 500.
Yeah.
So Monty Lee at Clemson would be better than both of those two guys. I think you could do a lot worse than Monty Lee.
I think you could too.
Yeah.
I think you could too. I think, to my original point, I think it has more to do with him being a former Clemson coach in the very recent past than it does anything. Here's the deal. When you look at Monty Lee at Clemson, Diesel, he won a lot of games. He is able to recruit. There's no doubt about that. And I was talking to someone last night. The reaction, if you remember, how many ever years ago that it was, Diesel, when Monty Lee was hired at Clemson, the moment he was hired, and if they don't want to admit it, that's fine, but Diesel, I'm telling you it happened. When Monty Lee was hired at Clemson to be the baseball coach, every South Carolina fan said, dang it, man, that was our guy. That's who we wanted, because it was at the end of the Chad Holbrook era. Clemson gets Monty Lee. All South Carolina fans said when Monty Lee took the job at Clemson was, man, that was our guy. That's who we wanted. Fast forward all these years later, they don't want Monty Lee, not because he's not a good coach, not because he can't recruit, not because the players don't like him, but because he was where? At Clemson. Listen, if he was at ECU for 5 years, they would embrace him back, right? With open arms.
So I wonder, Cole, because I'm pretty sure it is in football, at least in football. Will this be the first time the same guy has been both the head coach at both Clemson 100%. And South Carolina?
It's gotta be.
Has this ever happened before? I'm thinking we needed a historian here who can tell us at any sport, has the same coach been the head coach? I'm not talking about assistants.
Yeah.
Has anybody ever been the head coach at both Clemson and South Carolina? I don't know that that's ever happened.
I'm just trying to think.
Ray?
Yeah, really. I'm trying to think in terms of.
This would be unprecedented.
No.
I remember we had a call a while back with Darian Rencher, football player at Clemson, and we were asking about all these players who are transferring from Clemson to South Carolina, but that it's a one-way train, that you don't see a lot of players transferring from South Carolina to Clemson. And Darian Rencher said, no, that wouldn't happen at Clemson. That doesn't happen in Clemson.
Transferring to South Carolina.
Meaning Clemson accepting a Gamecock transfer.
Like they did Tavian Feaster. It sounds like Tavian went to South Carolina.
Yes, the assertion is that it is a one-way street only. Players only transfer from Clemson to South Carolina. They don't transfer from South Carolina to Clemson.
I could be wrong. And listen, if I am, I'll be glad. But I'm telling you right now, I cannot think. I would say 100% no. This never happened in Clemson and South Carolina history. If there was a golf coach or something like that in 1992 that coached at both places that I don't know about, maybe it happened. But to answer your question, it's unprecedented. Yeah. It's wild. I know that South Carolina fans hate Clemson and vice versa. But the reality of it is, Diesel, if Monty Lee would have left Charleston and went to the Citadel or to Georgia Tech or to Georgia, they would love to have Monty Lee back.
This is if you want to spin it this way, if you're a Gamecock fan who that's your beef, that's your reason why you're not high on Monty Lee, he now has an opportunity to go stick it to Clemson. The program and the school that fired him, who said he wasn't good enough.
Sure, and I'm
you can look at it that way and be stoked about the opportunity.
But let me ask you this. Let's say when Monty Lee left Charleston, he went to ECU or somewhere locally.
Sure.
If we were still in 2024, this week, Kingston gets fired, Monty Lee's at ECU or Georgia Tech or wherever you want to call it, I fully believe that people, South Carolina fans, media would be saying, go get Monty Lee.
Sure.
That would be like, I don't know if it'd be one, but I'm telling you, man, they would want him back so bad they couldn't stand it. But because he's a Clemson guy, there's a lot of hate. Now, to this point, you and I have talked about it a lot. Ray Tanner has some pressure on him to make the right hire.
Yeah. If he doesn't get this right, this is probably Ray Tanner's job. You got to think.
You got to make a case for it.
If this is his sport, and he's bungled the hire 3 times. I mean, granted, we're talking years down the road, and I mean, Ray Tanner is not a spring chicken. I don't know how long he plans on being the athletic director.
He's like
there.
67. I
really?
think.
So he could put athletic directors. A lot of times, athletic directors are older dudes. It just depends on does the university want to keep an older guy on for that
66.
long? So we're talking 5-6 years from now is probably the tenure of a D1 baseball coach, of an SEC baseball coach, if it's not going the way you want it to go. So it could be that Ray Tanner is still around and has to make the decision on the next hire as well.
The one text that I got earlier today came in at 2:45, right before we went on the air, and said a certain person in the South Carolina media thinks things are trending toward Monty because Tanner's first choice probably says no. Another text last night, as I scrolled down, this was regarding Monty Lee. The text read, just got a call from a South Carolina guy that I trust. He's saying Monty Lee, next head coach at South Carolina, Landon Powell on his staff as an assistant. That would be fascinating. You and I actually talked about that, Diesel, if Landon Powell would leave North Greenville to go to South Carolina. What's interesting, though, is here's what is fascinating. Landon, if he were to leave North Greenville to go to South Carolina, would there be some sort of conversation about him being the next guy? Or do you go to South Carolina as an assistant just hoping you're the next guy? Because Monty's not old. Monty would be there if this happened. Monty would be there for a while, right?
Yeah, well,
you would
assuming
think,
it goes well for him.
You would think. So, again, that was a text message I got last night.
Yeah, Monty's 47. I mean, what
still fairly young.
What is Landon, 42?
40s,
42?
Yeah, early 40s.
Yeah, so, I mean, you are essentially by age peers, and if it doesn't go well,
you've got Landon.
You're probably not going to be retained either. I mean, granted, if they hire Monty Lee, they'll set a precedent that they will hire an assistant from a staff that did not win a ton of games at South Carolina to be your next head coach.
And even if Landon went to South Carolina as an assistant, Diesel, and let's say things 4 to 7 years didn't go well, Landon would then at least have experience coaching the SEC, which would help him go get another job somewhere.
Yeah.
Shane Barrett says that has to be part of the conversation. If I'm Landon, I don't go otherwise. So I reached out before we hit a break.
We all know that coaching waiting scenarios don't often work out.
They don't always. No, it's no guarantee. Guarantee.
In a way, it worked out for Florida State for a little while with Jimbo.
Sure.
And Bowden. Didn't work out in the long run. He obviously took the payday, and there were some other issues going on there at Florida State with Jimbo. I'm nervous about coaching waiting scenarios.
No, there's nothing guaranteed in this world, right? Especially in coaching in college. Now, Diesel, I did reach out to Landon Powell yesterday evening to ask him if anything had changed, because the last time we had talked, he told me that he had not been contacted by anyone at South Carolina. My text to him, Diesel simply said, has anything changed on this front? I did not get a response. So if you want to read into things, a lot of times when you don't get a response, people will tell you that there might be legs to it. Usually, if there's not legs to it, you'll get a text back and say, no, I hadn't been in contact, right? No, there's nothing going on. Again, everything that I just said, nothing's official. This is just hearsay, rumors that we've gotten. I've gotten 2 different text messages about this. It'll be super fascinating to see if anything comes from it. But if Ray Tanner keeps getting told no, and I don't know that he has, Diesel, but if Ray Tanner gets 2 to 3, maybe 4 no's, I think Monty Lee's a very strong possibility.
Cole, when we come back, we're going to take a look at all the buzz happening out in the sports world, get you caught up with the Daily Wires right here on the Fan Upstate. Cole, believe it or not, there's a lot going on in sports, but not everything deserves a 15-minute topic here on Wire to Wire. We got to be a little more discerning than that. So we have a feature where we cram all the stories that don't necessarily need more than a couple seconds to talk about into one segment. We
like
call
women's
it
basketball?
Daily
Buzz. Sorry, I threw you off there. That's my fault. My bad.
Thank you. It is our Daily Wires. Oklahoma and Texas will face off tonight at 8 p.m. The College Softball World Series Game 1. I will be watching, man. I love watching college softball. I mean, I don't watch I don't watch a lot of regular season games. And once you get into the playoffs, once you get into the Women's World Series, you get into elite level, top notch, a lot of offensive firepower. You don't see a lot of 1-0 games. Okay. It's an exciting sport to watch, and I'll be watching it tonight. The Atlanta Braves defeated the Boston Red Sox last night, 8-3. Max Fried struck out 13 batters. They're now 34-24 on the season.
There we go.
Does that make you let go of the panic button key?
What
Just
key?
A little bit.
What panic button?
Putting up 8 runs in Major League Baseball, that's a good number, man. You put up 8 runs, you're going to win a lot more games than you lose. So maybe if you're a Braves fan, you look at that and say, okay.
It's a good win.
Cole, can you give us a live update on the Braves and Red Sox?
Yes.
They started at 1:35, which means they should be somewhere in the middle to late innings, 6th or 7th inning at this point.
Yeah, let's not go there.
Oh, okay. Maybe just firmly re-grip the key.
Yeah, let's actually find that key again. In the bottom of the 8th, it is 9-0.
Ouch.
Boston.
Not seeing it come back with this one. Cole, let's just move on and not talk about it. Former Carolina Panther Christian McCaffrey. Okay, let's not talk about anything great that's happening with Christian McCaffrey. It's too soon for Carolina Panthers fans. Christian McCaffrey signed a 2-year extension with the 49ers, which averages $19 million over the 2 years added to his contract.
Big money, man.
Big money.
Resetting that running back market again.
I get it. Carolina Panthers fans, you thought you were doing the right thing by moving on from a guy who was barely available, a guy who was always hurt. But, man, as soon as he leaves Carolina, Christian McCaffrey starts ticking back up again.
Injuries. Hell, yeah. What is that? Was he really hurt in Carolina? I mean, let's be honest.
Speaking of injuries, Cole, tennis star Novak Djokovic will undergo knee surgery after a torn meniscus in Paris. His status for Wimbledon is in doubt. That may be interesting for those of you who gamble. You degenerates who will bet your own hard-earned money
gambling
on athletes. That? Yeah, exactly. So if you were going to gamble on just his name alone, don't, because he is undergoing knee surgery. Top 10 NBA projection, Nikola Topic has a partially torn ACL. These knee injuries are all over the place, my friend.
Tommy John.
Yeah, they are everywhere. He's going to have himself a hard time probably staying inside the top 10. Depends on what the outlook on that surgery is. Las Vegas Aces, this is a funny one, man. But I look at this, I've seen this video a couple different times, and like my cynical brain says, probably fake, probably not real. But videos surfaced, Cole, of the Las Vegas Aces team bus almost leaving rookie Kate Martin behind after stopping at a restaurant on a team trip. It's kind of that classic thing you see in minor league baseball movies.
You think
where
that was
guys
on purpose?
Are joking around. Yeah, I do. I'm not buying it, man. But I'm cynical, man. I thought the Will Smith slap was fake too, just to drum up some interesting conversation. Part of me still thinks it's fake, but
sure.
Hey, so that happened. And Cole, here's the big one. The college football playoff has announced dates and kickoff times for the 12-team college football playoff. Round 1. The games will be Friday, December 20th at 8 o'clock, Saturday, December 21st at noon, and another one at 4 o'clock. Those are essentially the play-in games.
So not the good ones, right?
Saturday, December 21st at 8 p.m. So Saturday we'll have 3 games, noon, 4 p.m., and 8 p.m., a full day of football for us there. I kind of like that.
Okay.
The quarterfinal games will be Tuesday, December 31st at 7:30, one primetime game there. Wednesday, January 1st. We're all going to be off work, hopefully. I don't know about you, but we will. January 1st, 1 o'clock, 5 o'clock, and 8:45. 8:40. That's late, dude. We gotta stop with these 8:45 kickoffs because they're going to slow the game down for a lot of advertisements. Have a long halftime.
It's a 9 o'clock start.
Yeah,
so
it's
you're
a 9 o'clock start. You're talking about midnight.
Yeah,
midnight, maybe afterwards to finish up that game.
Is this the first or 31st? I'm sorry.
That's the first.
Okay.
So everybody's got to go to work the next day.
True.
You got to go to work the next day.
Great planning.
Yeah. Shouldn't this have been? Shouldn't the late game have been on Tuesday?
The 31st.
The 31st.
100%.
So that we all could be off on Wednesday. Stupid decision. Semifinal games called is going to be Thursday, January 9th at 7:30 and Friday, January 10th at 7:30. And the national championship game will be Monday, January 20th at 7:30.
How about that?
10 days between games, 11 days for the teams that play on Thursday.
I'm excited.
Yeah.
I'm excited. I don't know how I feel about those early games. Maybe they're good. Maybe
on a Saturday, I'm fine with it.
Yeah, maybe we hear this game blows from the announcer. Saturday, I'm fine with it. You're right. It's football, right? Don't
I didn't
hear
mean
me
to step on your sound effect.
No, it's fine.
Play it again.
Which one? The game blows? Now I got to find it.
This game blows. This game blows.
Best audio ever. We've got to get back to that. You know what we need to do? We need to make a promo out of that.
Yeah.
Of that guy, your buddy, who is no longer calling games.
See the mom over there? Yeah, I can't see her legs, but I can see her attitude from here.
All right.
Hot mic.
So coming up in the very next segment, we'll get to our phone calls. I do see a couple of waiting on the renewal by Anderson of the Carolinas. We'll get your thoughts in. Also, what blew up on my Twitter last night, and Diesel's thoughts on this very subject. All coming up next on Wire to Wire. So last night, Diesel, there was a little bit of a Twitter blow up on my end. Some people, for whatever reason, just think that you should like everything. You should have no opinions. You shouldn't do your job as someone who's in the media and gather thoughts from other people. So I'll set the scene for you, okay? That way you're not in the dark. Yesterday evening, Diesel, I received the fourth text message, which then led to like 9 by the time the night was over. Well, what did I receive these text messages about? I don't know if you know, we talked about this. You and I had, in fact, we've had the head coach and AD on the show just a few months ago. But there's a new charter school. Charter schools are continuing to pop up all across South Carolina, right? It's a public charter school. Kids can go, let's say a kid lives in Simpsonville or Malden, they can go to this school in Spartanburg. There's no boundary, right? There's no boundary lines. Well, a lot of people have issue with it because in order to get players to come play there, you have to do that R word, right? That R word that nobody likes saying in high school sports, but you have to recruit a little bit. Right?
Oh.
You have to get kids to come.
You get the best of the best.
Sure.
Traveling to go to a better school.
That's correct. So
the state of our public schools, I don't really blame them.
Well, here's the deal. You have to somehow, some way get kids to come play there, right? There are a lot of people upset, coaches included, because there were rumors. Again, I want to be very clear, rumors that were circulating about kids and coaches from this charter school that I'm discussing, Diesel, getting together and planning a little bit of reaching out to, like, let's say, for example, I reached out to you and said, hey, man, you're a really good radio show host. You do really good at my station, right? Come over here and host on my station. So I sent out a tweet last night at 8:26. Didn't really think it was going to be a big deal. However, it turned into a pretty big deal. 48,000 views later, I said, tonight marks the fourth high school head coach in the last 2 days in the upstate that's reached out to me about one of the new charter schools stealing players from their school. I was told tonight that the coaches are encouraging the players to text their former teammates and try to get them to come play with them. If that's not recruiting, I'm not sure what is. So I asked the question to you, Diesel, as well as our audience. Do you find issue with charter schools recruiting players from existing schools by, let's say, for example, a player goes, a running back or a wide receiver goes, and then the coach says, hey, why don't you call your buddies? And I'm not implying that happened, but I'm saying, do you find issue with the way that these charter schools have to attack and recruit and bring players to their school?
So tell me, what are the rules regarding institutional recruiting in the state of South Carolina?
When you say institutional,
meaning
you
a
mean
school.
Okay, the
school recruiting athletes and trying to induce them or convince them to change districts and come play there.
Well, that's not allowed.
It's not allowed. Okay.
It's not allowed for the school themselves to do it, right? For example,
what's the rule on coaches? Obviously, that's not allowed either, right? Coaches are not allowed to reach out.
Correct.
That's called roster tampering. That's okay.
Yep.
So this seems to me, Cole, on its surface, a very sneaky way, if it's happening the way that it's being alleged that it's happening, it's a very sneaky way of getting around the rules. It's like, why not, you're getting high school kids to essentially be your bagman and make payments at Southern Methodist University in the 1980s.
So here's what happened after I sent this tweet out, Diesel. Number one, the school is not officially a school until July the 1st, right? So we're in June. This school in Spartanburg is not officially a school until July 1st. Number two, people fail to realize that, Diesel, even though you and I are broadcasters, we also write content for the website. We're journalists. We're in the media. We're communicators. We wear a lot of hats, right? We're video producers. We do a lot here. We don't just sit on a microphone and talk like some believe. So I reported these facts last night that this was the fourth head coach that reached out to me. By the time the night was over, I had talked to like 9 different coaches who were upset about charter schools. I asked you the question, do you have issue? But Diesel, after this happened, it was a very big deal made of my tweet. The founder of the school, which I very much appreciate him doing, reached out to me. The guy who founded the school. And I'm not going to name names and start making this a name-calling contest because I want to be very respectful. But he said simply, after we talked for about 22 minutes, he said, if they walk through our doors, we'll talk to them. We haven't reached out to any kids, nor have our staff. Says if a coach has proof of something otherwise, then to please call him. Now, this has been circulating Twitter and social media, Diesel, for probably a year now with the announcement of this Spartanburg charter school being in Spartanburg. Now, I will be very honest on this, very clear, rather. Charter schools have been popping up over the state for a while now.
Okay.
However, I ask you the question, where's the hotbed of high school football in South Carolina?
Spartanburg.
Spartanburg. Guess what happens when a charter school comes to Spartanburg and says, hey, we're going to plant our flag right here in Spartanburg in the hotbed of high school football, and we're going to say, we welcome anyone, which, by the way, that's how charter schools operate. And as I said earlier, if you live in Malden or Simpsonville or Gaffney or wherever, you can go to this new charter school. There's no lines, right? There's no district boundaries. So I understand that these schools, Diesel, have to somehow get the players to come play for them.
Sure.
Now, I do have issue, and tell me if you agree or disagree, I do have issue with seeds being planted. What I mean by that is, and again, I want to be very clear, I'm not alleging that this happened. I'm just telling you what rumors are. I'm addressing rumors. I have an issue with seeds being planted. Tell me if you agree or disagree. For example, if a coach at a charter school says to his player, hey, you used to play with so-and-so over at your school. He was a really good left tackle. Why don't you call him and see if he wants to come play for us? I have an issue with that.
Sure.
Am I on my own boat here, or do you agree?
No. You should have an issue with that. That is the definition
Tampering?
of roster tampering right there. And that is flat out wrong if it's happening the way that you describe it as happening.
Mm-hmm.
It's flat out wrong to use a 14, 15, 16, 17-year-old kid
Correct.
to do your dirty work. You found a way around the system.
I want to emphasize, I'm not accusing anyone of doing anything. I have a lot of friends and contacts at that school. I'm not accusing anyone, but it's a very hot topic. And if you don't like me talking about it and bringing it up on the radio, well, guess what? I go back to what I just said a few minutes ago. Our job is to create interesting conversation, Diesel. You and I do. Mm-hmm. Our job is to create content for social media, which, by the way, for whatever reason, a lot of people are soft nowadays. They act like you post something on social media and they get all offended by it.
Yeah, you say something, you're a hater.
Well,
you're spreading hate. You're spreading lies.
Is there any difference between Twitter, or X, whatever you call it, and the newspaper? To me, it's the modern day newspaper, right?
Yeah.
Because people don't read the paper anymore. Paper industry is dying. X is a newspaper where the followers, the people on the platform, also get to have a voice. And I know that's where a lot of people have issue with it, but the reality of it is, yesterday I was printing a page in the paper. I was posting information that was given to me, Diesel, and a lot of people have issue with it. Most people are on the side of anti-charter schools. And again, this segment, me bringing this up is not anti-charter school segment. I want to be very clear, okay? This is me bringing up a topic that received over 50,000 views and interactions last night on Twitter, and I ask you the same question. Texter says from the 993, Texter says Burns did this with Xavier Dye. Listen, recruiting in some fashion has been going on forever. I mean, let's be honest, Diesel. High school kids, for as long as we can remember, I'm sure have been swaying people to come play for them.
Yeah, but previously you had to be within a district line.
That's correct.
And this is not population grew to the size where this county needed a new school, and so they're splitting off some students who are at school A to come to brand new school B. We know, Cole, that there is a huge population boom in the upstate. We know that 35,000 new people are moving here every single year. So we're not talking about that. We're talking about potentially accusations of coaches using 16-year-old kids to recruit for them because they know that recruiting is illegal in the state of South Carolina.
So I talked to a high school. This is crazy how viral it went last night. A high school football coach in Alabama called me. And in Alabama, Diesel, you have to, in order to get a school or a kid to come to your school, the coach, again, this is the state of Alabama, the coach or any coach from the school cannot contact the kid directly. It's against the rules. In order to get you to come play for me in Alabama, this high school coach was telling me yesterday that you have to come to the guidance department at my school, fill out an open waiver booklet, right, and some kind of paperwork, and then in person, in the school, after you apply and change your zoning, I guess is the proper words.
You have to move.
You have to move, right? Then you're allowed to talk to the coach. This is in Alabama. South Carolina, you're still not allowed to recruit. Coaches aren't allowed to recruit on behalf of the school. Schools aren't allowed to recruit on behalf of the coaches. Here's where people have issue with this. They bring up, well, Burns or Gaffney or whatever these big schools, they've been getting players for years. I do think there's a difference, Diesel, in powerhouses who are always good getting players versus a charter school having to acquire players. And I'll tell you why. Kids want to go where you win, right?
Yeah, they want to go where they can play with the best, play against the best, and have a chance to get into college and play college football.
And again, I want to be very clear. I'm not anti-charter school. I'm not anti the new charter school that popped up in Spartanburg. JD on the stream says, I'm not anti-charter school because it may get my kid into 4K sooner. Thank you for the message, JD. Listen, I'm not accusing anyone of anything.
Is there any oversight from the school board where you talked about in Alabama there's an application process, essentially? Sure. Is there any oversight from the school board or the South Carolina Department of Education or the South Carolina High School League or someone that would be able to look at these situations? I mean, are we really going to police it to the point where we make a 16-year-old kid who wants to transfer to a different school give up his cell phone and show that he hasn't had conversations with other players on that roster?
It's crazy. It's a wild world. And let me tell you this. This is where I'm going with this. If you think that charter schools popping up are making your high school football, making your image of high school football different, just wait. Because when money starts becoming involved and NIL becomes involved, high school football as we know it will look 110% different. Like, let's be honest, it's coming. NIL is coming to high school. It's coming here. It's going to happen. I'm not saying it's happening now. I'm just saying it's going to happen. The high school league, who many people dislike and have a distaste for, and I get it, they're already discussing NIL. Like, there's going to be a day soon, Diesel, where the car dealership down the street, the car dealership down the street has an 18-year-old, 17-year-old kid move to Greenville or Malden, and the team's not any good, but guess what?
He's driving around in a brand new car.
That's right.
So I wonder, Cole, if we're going to learn any lessons, if the South Carolina High School League is going to learn any lessons from the debacle that we've seen college football NIL become, and try to get out ahead of this.
That's a great point.
In a sense of doing essentially what the NCAA couldn't do or wouldn't do, and set some parameters on NIL in the state of South Carolina before it happens. I wonder here, Cole. I mean, obviously the NCAA has faced antitrust lawsuits and they just had to settle with the House in that lawsuit. I wonder in what way would high school athletes being under the age of 18 affect their ability? Like, can a 17-year-old sue the high school league for saying you wouldn't let me get an NIL offer? He's not a legal adult, right? I don't know what the legalities around that might be. But Cole, if it came to the point where the South Carolina High School League said, hey, we're going to do the whole trust thing. You're not going to be allowed to make any money up front. Everything is going to have to flow through your school. And God, that's going to create a whole new mess of situations at high schools where NIL money may be flowing through a high school and going to players. And then you'd say, these kids are employees of the high school, right? But could they get ahead of this and essentially do NIL the right way?
They could. And
or a better way, at least a better way.
Wow, there are so many questions that are going to pop up as we start getting to NIL and high school, Diesel. To your point, I don't know if these deals will be in the kids' names with them being under 18, but it's coming. It's coming, I'll tell you that. Some of the reaction on Twitter last night, or on X, if you will, from this conversation, local football coach responded back to me and said, I hate the direction high school football is going, where kids are committing to other high schools and then the high schools are making graphics about it. But until people want it to end, I don't see it happening anytime soon. Melinda on my Twitter said, schools like Bishop England have been doing this for years, but I said repeatedly it would never change until it started causing issues in football. Very good point there. Bo says, expected from the IMG's wannabe that have popped up around the state, but the public schools are doing it also. When did Gaffney last start a quarterback that was homegrown? JL Mann didn't suddenly build. They have like 32 transfers. Other coaches have cherry-picked from other schools. I'm not saying – I want to be very clear. I'm not saying that recruiting is a new thing, right? It's been going on for a long time. I don't see any issue with a charter school acquiring talent. They have to acquire talent in order to get a football team. And guess what? There's not football kids sitting at home that they can just go choose from. I have no issue with them acquiring talent. I have issue with rumors, again, keyword rumors, that have been sent to me where charter schools, and not just this one in Spartanburg, but other ones in the past, have used other tactics to recruit. Do we all know that everybody's going to try to do what's best for themselves? Yes, we do. Everybody's in it for themselves, right? Nobody. You can't buy the whole we're trying to make the world a better place anymore. You just can't buy it. Everybody has something at stake. It's just scary that the direction of high school football is moving so rapidly for a lot of people, I believe.
To that point, Cole, I do wonder, how effective charter schools are in the realm of education. I understand charter schools do things differently than the way, public schools do. You're probably not going in for 7 periods over the course of a day. You're sort of tailoring your educational experience to your aptitude, or to maybe different ways of presenting the curriculum that may be more effective to you. I do wonder, are student athletes, are their test scores going up in charter schools?
It's a great conversation.
Are they really only there to play sports, or are some of these student athletes who you and I, we've heard many stories over the years of the struggles that student athletes have when it comes to being students. Could this structure be more effective? Because we all know only a small percentage of high school athletes play college, and only a small percentage of college athletes go pro. Could these charter schools prepare these athletes for life better than public schools are?
It's a great point.
That's just another way of looking at it. Cole, when we come back, we are going to do a deep dive on Clemson baseball, as they are now hosting Florida in the regional this upcoming weekend. We're going to have a great conversation with Jason Priester from the Clemson Insider, who covers Clemson baseball. That's on the other side. You got questions for Jason? Why don't you get them to us now, you Tolos? Text us 71307. Start your text with keyword fan, or drop us a comment on the Facebook stream. It's coming soon. Clemson's chance to possibly make Omaha in the College Baseball World Series. We go to the expert right now, Jason Priester, Clemson Insider, covers Clemson baseball, among other things, for the Clemson Insider. Number one, Jason, appreciate you taking some time to jump on with us today. But will Clemson need all 3 games to dispatch Florida this weekend?
That's a Florida team that's kind of getting hot at just the right time. That's a team that was ranked number 1 in the preseason, so there's no question that's a talented team. I could easily see this series going all 3 games. Absolutely.
Jason, what's so interesting is we talked about all season, a team like Florida, they were inconsistent through the regular season, inconsistent through conference play, but then all of a sudden the tournament gets here, they start improving in their pitching, when their bats get going, they're a very hard team to beat. In your mind, what can you put a finger on that makes this Florida team so good?
They just got a bunch of talent, man. They got one of the best players in the country, and Jack Castiglione. He's a guy that can beat you in a bunch of different ways. They've got really good pitching. When they're on, they're really good. When they're playing at their best, that is one of the best teams at the country. But like you said, they've been a little bit inconsistent this year. Haven't quite lived up to expectations. And again, as you said, nobody's been able to really put a finger on why. But you always want to get hot at just the right time. Thought Clemson got a little too hot too early last year, and maybe this Florida team's getting hot at the right time. It's a matchup we don't see very often. I think only twice in history has Clemson and Florida played. If I'm remembering, if I read that right, it has been a long time since these 2 teams have played. Should be an exciting weekend.
Jason Priester, the Clemson Insider, joins us here on Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson. Jason, how much do you make of Clemson's slightly easier road to get here, not just in the regionals, but also when you look back on the past sort of month of the season? They haven't necessarily played a really tough slate over the past month, whereas Florida has played a tougher slate in the SEC. I mean, I would compare it maybe to what the Atlanta Braves faced last year in the playoffs, not having to play meaningful baseball leading up to that first series where they got booted.
Well, I mean, they was, there's something to be said about having your spot locked up in the conference tournament a couple of weeks early, but you're still playing for seed and you're still playing for a national seed. I still think they had things to play for down the stretch. Definitely think Florida had the tougher slate over the past few weeks of the season. And Clemson definitely was not playing their best baseball as we headed to Charlotte, as we got to Charlotte. Didn't even end up having to face Vanderbilt in the regional last week. Just had to knock off Coastal a couple of times to advance to the Super. So we'll see this weekend, which team's a little bit more battle-tested. I think Florida's been a little bit more battle-tested of late, but I do think Clemson played some legit competition, especially over the first half of the season.
Jason, is there any concern on your end with Clemson starting pitching? I mean, last Sunday, I didn't think that it was a bad outing by Darden, but when you look at the potential rotation after Tristan Smith this weekend, does any of the pitching concern you or no?
I think that's one of the biggest questions, no doubt about it. I think any postseason success Clemson can have hinges on that starting pitching. And will they be able to go deep enough into games to not tax that bullpen? You need Aiden Knox going 5, 6 innings, maybe 7. You need to get 5 innings at least out of Tristan Smith. And who's that third guy going to be? Ethan Darden got knocked around a little bit, as you said, early. And that last game against Coastal Carolina, the hidden ball trick kind of settled him down, and he went on to have a couple of 1, 2, 3 innings. But when they pulled off that hidden ball trick, Eric Backett was coming out of the dugout right then to yank him. So, I mean, he was getting knocked around a little bit. He has gotten knocked around a little bit in his 2 previous starts before that. Before that, he'd been pretty consistent. He just hit a little roadblock over his past 3 starts. Again, thought his final couple innings over the weekend were solid, but that's a good question. To me, it all hinges on that starting pitching. Do they decide to go with Ethan Darden as the third guy? Do they look at somebody else, maybe like freshman Jacob McGovern, maybe, who's been really good for them, but we've only seen him out of the bullpen. Or maybe a guy like Matt Marshall, who's had some spot starts here and there, or maybe even Billy Barlow, who was used as the midweek starter for much of the season. It'll be interesting to see what Eric Backus decides to do if we do indeed get to that third and deciding game.
Jason, we spent a lot of time, going through the numbers yesterday, comparing Clemson and Florida batting average, slugging percentages, stealing bases, the success rates there, home runs hit over the course of the season. How do you see Clemson needing to beat Florida? Do you see this being a high-powered offense, home run type of series, or are they going to have to play some small ball to beat this team?
Maybe a little bit of both. I was surprised with how few home runs Clemson hit over the weekend. This is a team that's hit over 100 home runs this season. So they know how to hit the blown ball. They've been pretty good at manufacturing runs when they need to. They had some struggles with runners in scoring position over the weekend, although I thought the numbers in that final game probably looked a little worse than they were because they hit some balls on the button just right at guys, and Coastal's outfielders made some really good plays in the outfield. But I think Clemson's going to have to do a little bit of both. If they want to, move on and go to Omaha for the first time in almost 15 years, they're going to have to play some small ball. They might have to steal some bases. We've seen Eric Backus many times this year. He's not afraid to bunt a guy over or pull off a double squeeze when he needs to. They've done that a couple of times this year. And again, they're perfect. There's some guys in that lineup perfectly capable of hitting long balls. You got guys like Jimmy Overtop, Blake Wright, all with double-digit home runs. So I think they'll need to do a little bit of all of it if they want to advance.
Jason Priester of the Clemson Insider joining us on the Fan Upstate. Jason, when you saw the Clemson Tigers clinch on Sunday, the celebration began. The Clemson fans had already loved Eric Backus, but man, there was something about the way he embraced the fans on Sunday. Obviously, I was there and saw him get up on the wall, and it was one of those kind of goosebump scenes where it just kind of catches you off guard, but it seems like he is embracing the fan base as much as the fan base is embracing him. What makes this hire and this short 2-year tenure so special, in your opinion?
Him having been here before, he's a little bit familiar with the fan base and the expectations. And, I think he understands what this program's capable of and kind of how they've maybe underachieved a little bit over the past few years and not been to Omaha since 2010, a program that, used to be known for making it to Omaha quite consistently. He kind of embraced that when he got here. He made no bones about it. His expectations are to go to Omaha, and the fans just bought right in. I think he was the perfect home run hire at just the right time for this program. And man, he has been really good in his first 2 years. These fans here love him. Like you said, it was a very surreal moment when they finished that game on Saturday or Sunday night, whichever night it was. The days are running together, but seeing him out there on that outfield wall, man, with those fans in the cheap seats in the Cajun Cafe, it's been a long time coming, and it was like you could feel that monkey coming off the program's back almost. You could almost literally feel it as you were sitting out there.
Find him on Twitter at JP_Priester. He's got some fantastic notes posted up on Dabo's 2-day football camp. But Jason, you had a lot of firsthand experience covering Monty Lee during his tenure at Clemson. Taking any fandom out of this and a reason why you wouldn't want to see him take over as head coach at South Carolina, why is he the right guy for South Carolina if he is, in fact, going to be the next head coach?
I always liked Monty. He's a great guy, very knowledgeable about baseball. Great recruiter, especially in this state with all his ties to some of the coaches here. If he's the guy, and I'm not saying he is, I don't know who they're going to hire, but if he is the guy that they decide on, I think the recruits will love it. I think some of the current players would love it. Maybe keeps some of those guys in the fold instead of maybe looking at other options if they clean house and bring in a whole new coaching staff. There's something to be said about continuity if you decide to go that route, but we'll see how it plays out. He's a guy that definitely deserves another shot at a big school somewhere, I think.
Jason, there was a lot of conversation during the game as well as on social media after the game for the PA music Sunday night as Clemson, clinched that regional championship. Every at bat, every pitch, it seemed like there was music being played. I have no idea why this was a topic of conversation, but guess what? In the world we live in, it sure was. Was this discussed in the press box, or is this something that you didn't see until after the day after?
It wasn't really discussed. We're kind of used to it for us. For those of us that have been around it for a couple of years now, they really. It was a little bit different in how they did it this weekend because it was a regional, but. At home games, they typically play music like that when between pitches, when the opposing team is pitching, particularly when he's throwing balls and it's in a big moment, that they'll play the "We Like to Party" song every ball. So, it's kind of become commonplace there at Clemson. I know a lot of the older fans don't like it, and I understand it, but me personally, I really don't even hear it anymore. I've become so accustomed to it.
Jason, I'm going to put you in a tough spot here with this question, okay? And the answer truly is, I understand that both are absolutely phenomenal, but with what we saw this past weekend at Doug Kingsmore, is the baseball atmosphere now edging out the softball atmosphere at Clemson?
If you can keep the same atmosphere that you've had over the past, particularly this weekend, and get that throughout the entire season, absolutely. It's been a long time since it's been that electric in there. It was electric for the regional last year, particularly then for that Tennessee game. But those two games against Coastal over the weekend, that the place was absolutely rabid. It's been a long time since I've seen it like that. And if you can keep it like that, yeah, there's no question.
Hey, Jason, I plan on being there Sunday. So if you don't mind, make sure Clemson wins on Saturday. That way, Sunday's the deciding game, and that may be the best atmosphere you and I have both seen in quite some time. How about that?
I'll see what I can do for you, man.
We appreciate you coming on with us. Great stuff. Look forward to catching up with you. And for those listening, again, you can follow him on Twitter. His work is fantastic at the Clemson Insider. Jason, we'll talk to you soon, brother.
My pleasure, man. Appreciate it. Thanks.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Jason.
Jason Priester of the Clemson Insider. To his point, Diesel, about the environment. It's a good question about the softball, baseball, because softball has an incredible environment.
You can't get tickets to softball games.
It's raucous.
Yeah.
It is. Now, I'm glad you brought up the tickets point. Last week, on Sunday, I went as a fan with a group of buddies, right, to the game. I was not there covering it as media.
Mm-hmm.
We bought tickets, extremely affordable. I'll tell you how much I spent on a standing room only ticket for the regional, $8.
And where were you in the stadium?
It was a great view. So if you're sitting behind home plate, right, looking out toward the outfield wall, standing room, there's two spots. Both are in the same spot on each side, but it's past the dugout. And then where the dugout is, you have the bullpen area where the pitchers warm up, and it's just right there on the other side. So you're about 50 feet or 30 to 40 feet past third base, and you're looking back down toward home plate. It's a good view.
Yeah.
For standing room, $8. Again, I wasn't there covering the game on Sunday. This Sunday, I will be there as media. However, Diesel, 1 week later, standing room right now in the 90s.
Ooh.
So if you want to go,
Get them
stand. Man, that's a football ticket, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, let's say a FCS team, Clemson and App, or Clemson or before App became, when they were still FCS, you name it. You could probably get a Clemson football ticket for less than 90, couldn't you?
Oh yeah. I mean, face value on those tickets probably what, $50? What's face value?
Probably 50.
Lower bowl or upper bowl?
I'm just saying the cheapest.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That's
You
insane.
get it for $40, I'm sure.
So standing room is that expensive. Would you pay that to go see your team in the Supers?
If I was if we were in the Supers, yeah, and I could conveniently make it, absolutely.
Especially with it being like an hour.
Yeah.
I don't know how many tickets are left, but I know that when the super regional tickets were announced, it was on like Donkey Kong. Man.
If I didn't already have engagements both Saturday and Sunday, I would have applied for credentials to get down to this game.
I'm checking availability to see what the current prices on seats are, if there are any left. I don't even know that there are. Yes, there. Okay, so if you want to go sit down this weekend at Clemson, row GA, and that is no, that's standing room only.
Standing room.
Now $189.
$189.
It's going up. So standing room only is now $189. The cheapest seat in Clemson this weekend, Diesel. Section R, row 8, $429.
Woo.
We're talking college baseball.
You might want to go sit in the football stadium.
Wow.
Set up binoculars.
With an iPad.
Yeah. That's going to be your best bet if you want to get in cheap.
6,306 people just recently viewed that same ticket, is what this website's telling me. If you want to sit in Section C, row B, Diesel, which is right behind home plate, you can get a ticket right now, 2 together, for $1,289.
Oh, my God.
We're talking college baseball.
I love it.
That's crazy.
I love the atmosphere that this is creating in college baseball. To me is way more fun than watching pro baseball. I'm sorry, all you Braves fans.
No, it's
college
fun.
Baseball is better. It just simply is.
Diesel, I ask you the question. I ask our Tolos, our audience, if you play golf, I need your help in the very next segment. You'll find out why next. 223 people joining us right now. They're not listening to Wire to Wire. They're watching Wire to Wire. What do you mean watching? You can watch the show? Yeah, you can watch us live on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube every single day. We are here with you. Diesel, I asked the question before we came to break. I need, if you play golf, if you're a golf guy, if you're just a golf fan, but no golf, I need your help.
Yeah.
You know golf a lot better than I do. So I'm going to defer to you.
I play golf, but I wouldn't be so bold as to put I know golf like in my Twitter handle. That would be a ludicrous thing to do, to say I know golf.
Very well done. Very well done. I give you the golf clap for that one. I like it. So my question would be, I have the possibility on Saturday, as you and I were sitting here yesterday, Charlie James over at 98.9 WORD came in, and I had joked with him the day before. I said, Charlie, you're playing in the BMW Charity Pro-Am. This was on Monday. You and I were just joking with him because he's a celebrity in the tournament. I said, Charlie, you can let me be your caddy. And as quick as ever, his answer was no.
Shut you down fast.
He shut that down fast. So yesterday he comes back in. We're talking about it. He's been practicing. He's a celebrity, and he's been practicing this week at the Carolina Country Club in Thornblade and getting ready. And he looks at me and says, let me ask you a question. If I make the cut, you want to see if I can get you to be my caddy on Saturday? And I thought he was joking, right? Because I had asked him. I thought he was completely joking.
He's a funny guy.
He's a very funny guy. I said, well, of course, Charlie. Are you being serious? He said, yeah, I'm being serious. Now, this hinges on him making the cut, right? I don't know what the cut will be, but he's going to make the cut. So the question is, Diesel, if I, on Saturday, caddy for Charlie James over at 98.9, I'm not a golf guy. I know nothing about golf. Number one, should I just shut up and carry the bag? Or number two, should I act like I know golf?
Well, Charlie now knows that you don't know golf.
That's true.
So don't try to act like you know golf, right? Yeah, that's going to be a blast if you actually get to do it.
If I get to do it.
So here's some really good advice, Cole. As
right.
somebody who knows golf.
Yes, knower of golf.
First of all, you need to learn what Charlie, your player, needs from you. Does Charlie need you? It's kind of like it's kind of like being with a woman. Like, how's your dating life going right now?
Right now, it's more of a casual than it is serious.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you need to learn, you need to learn what your lady needs from you, right?
Yep.
You need to know how you can best support her. So you need to learn how you can best support Charlie James.
Okay.
Does Charlie want you to joke around with him, keep him loose, say, hey, Charlie, the score of this game is this. Does he need you to do that from him?
Or STFU?
Or does he want you to shut up and let him focus? So those are two big things. I know, Charlie's a funny guy, but we don't know how Charlie is in a pressure-filled situation.
The zone, man.
Yeah, he might need –
So I guess the question becomes, Diesel, if you and our Tolos, our listeners, think, okay, let's live life on the edge here. Cole, you got to sneak some terms in. What do I say? Like, what are some golf things that I say, like, as he's getting ready to hit, as he's getting ready to tee off?
Gotta tell him it's all in the hips.
All in the hips?
It's all in the hips.
See, I mean,
it's all in the hips.
I hear you, but I don't know, I don't know what that means. I don't play golf.
So, I mean, if this wasn't you out there, again, Cole, who doesn't know golf.
Correct.
If this was like, you were taking your first job as a caddy, again, you got to learn, what does he need? Does he need you to keep him loose, or does he need you to shut up and let him focus? Number two, Cole, you need to start learning your golfer's distances club by club. Like, you got to pay attention to see if he's hitting those shots short or long. So, like, if his 9-iron typically goes 125 yards, if he can hit that 9-iron 125, 9-iron 125, but he's really having to lay into it to get it to 125, then, maybe you got to tell him, hey, why don't you hit the 8? Why don't you club up a little bit? Why don't you club up, go from the 9 to the 8 and swing easier. That way you're not pushing the ball left or right. You're not overextending your abilities here.
Okay.
So I think you got to maybe teach him, like, if you can see that he is really putting a lot of effort into the swing to get it to where he needs to get it, say, hey, you know what? Club up a little bit.
Club up a little bit, Charlie.
Club up,
Like a
club
whisper,
down.
right?
Yeah.
Just club up a little bit, Charlie. Club up. Like, I don't even know if I'm going to say it with a straight face. Club up a little bit, Charlie. So club up means, like, is that the same as when you're playing baseball to choke up on the bat or no?
No, it just means, again, if his 9-iron goes 125, but he's struggling to get it to 125, or you see that he's really having to swing hard through it to get it to there.
Sure.
Say, hey, why don't you hit the 8-iron? You don't have to swing so hard. You get to conserve some energy, right? That's what you're trying to tell him, is conserve the energy, club up, go to the next stronger club so that you can conserve some energy.
So here's what I thought about doing. And tell me, I think I should do it. So I don't know if I'm going to take your advice or not. But let me tell you what I want to do. Acting like I know what I'm doing. I'm a hunter. I'm not a golfer. Mm-hmm. I'm going to take my rangefinder that I use when I hunt and hang it around my neck and, be out there telling Charlie, hey, Charlie, that oak tree's at 133. I mean, that matters, right?
It does matter. It does. I mean, if there's trees hanging in front of the green, you got to tell them, hey, you got that oak tree is hanging at 125. So you got to get it up and over that oak tree. So that means you really need to hit the shot 135 to get it up and over those trees.
Get some text. This comes from let's see. Let me get to the first one. 344. Texter says, shut up and carry the bag. Help him line up his putts. Hand him a drink if he needs one. You'll be the glorified assistant.
Tell him to be the ball. No. Right.
Yeah. Texter says he may need you to pray over his golf clubs like the Oklahoma player who had prayer before hitting a walk-off. I didn't know about that. Texter says, good God, grip it and rip it, but never talk before a shot. That's rule number 2.
Yeah.
Texter says you would tell him to hit a soft 8. The easier the golf swing, the better.
Correct.
First key is watching him on the driving range.
There you go.
Is that right?
There you go.
Watching him on the range?
You got to get a good sense of where all these shots are going and whether or not he's able to easily.
Why do I need to watch him on the range?
Hit those distances.
Just to get a feel?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know that you have the ability to do that, not casting any aspersions on your ability as a caddy who's never been a caddy before. No, Cole, the very simple answer is hand him a towel when he looks sweaty, hand him a drink when he looks thirsty, carry the bag, shut up.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. Real quick.
And don't get mad when he hands you his club after the shot and expects you to put it back in the bag. That is your job.
Put it back in the bag.
That's your job.
JD on the renewal by Anderson of the Carolinas fan phone. JD, we got 30 seconds before break. Grip it and rip it.
Hey, absolutely. Grip it and rip it. Hey, quick joke for you. So if Charlie asks you at any point, what are you going to hit on this hole? All you got to do is say the trees to the right. And the club will not matter. If it's anything like any of our golf game, we're going to slice it, we're going to hook it, we're going to hit the trees to the right or the left. So just be there, be inspirational, and y'all have a good time, my friend. Y'all be easy.
Thanks,
JD. You didn't thank us for taking your call, though.
Oh, he missed it. Man, that's tough. JD, swing and a miss.
Appreciate you, pal. Thanks for calling in. You Tolos who are here each and every day. We thank you so much. Hey, Cole, when we come back, it is time for you and I to put up our dukes and fight about it. We do it every single day. It's the most interacted with segment on this show. The 5 o'clock fight comes up next on the Fan Upstate. Each and every day at this time, we light the upstate afire, a flame, with the hottest segment on the radio. We call it the 5 o'clock fight, Cole. Well, it's called the 5 o'clock fight because it's at 5 o'clock. And
is that right?
We fight about things each and every day. We pick 3 different topics, sometimes sports, sometimes not. We fight about it. We have to take the opposite sides of the argument. And then you, the Tolos, decide who wins each round of the fight, who is the most compelling at making their argument. The way you let us know is you text 71307. Start your text with keyword fan. You can also hit us up on the stream on Facebook, Twitter, or on YouTube to tell us who wins each round. Let's get into it. We don't call it the most interactive with segment on this show for nothing. It's because of you. We appreciate you. Again, get your votes in for who wins each round. 71307. Start your text with keyword fan. After we get through these 5 o'clock fights, we'll tell you how you can suggest a topic that we should fight about. But let's go ahead and get started. Cole, if you are a Middle Tennessee State Blue Raider football fan,
which probably a lot of them out there.
Yeah. Would you have a problem, all dozen of them, would you have a problem with the words new head coach Derek Mason used to try to get the fan base jacked up, to try to get them to come to MTSU Blue Raider football games and invoking exactly what he did to try to make this happen? Here's the audio.
We are a special group here at MTSU, but what's going to make us different here is not that this group comes and shows up. I know this group is going to come and show up. That's not what I'm worried about. Okay, it's how do we get to the place where we can be like Boise State, where Boise shuts down the town, okay, and Boise goes out to support Boise. Okay, how do we become like App State? Hear me on this. How do we become like Boone or App State, where when you go to a game, I don't care if it's 1 o'clock in the afternoon or 9 o'clock at night. I don't care if it's on a Tuesday or on a Thursday, that they show up and that it's loud. Because let me tell you something, it's more about the fan base. Okay, I'll bring one more team to the table.
So the one more team that he invokes there is James Madison, talking about the same thing. So he is your new football coach. If you are a Blue Raider fan, do you have a problem with Derek Mason name dropping other schools at your level as saying, this is the template, this is what we need to be, this is how I need you to behave?
So I'm going to pretend like he was my head coach.
He's your head coach.
And say, initially, the first time I heard it, Diesel, I was kind of turned off by it. Mm-hmm. I hear it again. You know what? I've come around to it. I understand that he's name dropping, App State, James Madison, Boise. And at first it does seem a little strange, but like his intent is for the people that are listening to him, whatever that was, for them to understand that they're not meeting the standard, that they have to be better. And you know what? If it takes calling out a few other schools, I think that's a hat tip of respect. I don't think that it happens everywhere. But I say kudos to Derek Mason.
Yeah, I think you can, if I'm a fan of MTSU, now, not that MTSU has any direct history with any of these schools. I mean, they might have played them a few times here and there over the years. I know that MTSU and App State have played in a bowl game, but I don't know if they've played James Madison. I don't know if they've played Boise. They're not in a conference, and they never have been in the same conference together. But Cole, I think you can do this without dropping so much high praise on these other schools. Just be like, hey, we've got schools in this region right here, an hour drive away, who are packing out their stadium for Thursday night games. That's who you need to be. I don't think Derek Mason as a coach needs to be name dropping other universities. As a fan of one of those schools, hey, I love it that he name dropped us. But if I'm a fan of MTSU, I don't want him throwing any fodder at other schools saying, hey, what they're doing over there is really good. What we're doing here sucks.
Okay.
I mean, he's not wrong. Derek Mason's not wrong.
Sure.
I just don't want him saying it like that.
Those names of the school. No, I get it.
So there you go. Who wins that round of the fight? Text in 71307. Let's go to round number 2. Cole, let's just say you've been sent to jail. And I know what you do on the weekends sometimes. There's a very good chance that might happen to you. You can only watch one sport for the rest of your life. You must have done something really bad. But
man,
you can
I must
only
have killed
watch
somebody.
But you have to choose. You know, this is like when we were kids and when you go over to grandma's house, they had a TV that got like 3 channels. You have to choose between WNBA or NASCAR for the rest of your life.
Oh my gosh.
You've been convicted of murder. They got you dead to rights. You're going to jail for life, but the TV only gets WNBA or NASCAR. Which one are you watching?
This is unbelievable. This is unbelievable that I have to pick between these two sports. Let's be honest, before Caitlin Clark arrived, nobody talked about the WNBA. And at times, NASCAR is the equivalent of watching paint dry. So to be quite frank, I don't want to choose, but if I'm in jail, if I'm in prison, and I only get one to choose from to watch the rest of my life in prison, Diesel, I think I'm going NASCAR. I'm going NASCAR.
Yeah.
At least I know some drivers. At least I follow the sport a little bit. And the WNBA, outside of Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese, name 5 players. You can't do it, right? So I'd get super bored. Tell me I'm wrong, though.
You're wrong because you are stuck in jail for the rest of your life, and you're going to choose to watch a dude sport with dudes in cars, in helmets. No, man, you're gonna be in there a long time. You're gonna be a lonely dude. I'm watching WNBA. This is probably not kosher for me to say anymore, but man, if I'm not gonna get any female contact, I'm gonna watch females. There's some very, very attractive WNBA players. Cole, Nika Mule, Cameron Brink, Lexi Brown. I know you don't know any of these names because you don't watch WNBA. You're just like Stephen A. Smith. You don't watch enough WNBA. Right. But man, if that's all I got to keep me company on those long, lonely nights, I'm watching WNBA. At least I'm going to get something to think about, right?
Come on. That's too boring. What happens when Caitlin Clark gets beat up and, never plays again because she has too many
if I'm a murderer, bruises. Maybe that's my thing.
That's true. Yeah, you are in prison for life.
That's it.
Right?
That's it. All right, that's 2 down, 1 to go. Let's get into it. Cole, I don't know how much of a reader you are.
I read Facebook.
Okay. When you read actual books, not magazines, not magazines that are mostly pictures, do you prefer to read a real actual book or like an e-reader, an electronic copy?
So I will admit that my reading I'm not reading as much as I should be.
He reads at a 7th grade level.
Yeah.
Everyone.
I should be reading a lot more.
You went to a charter school.
That's true. I'd be president probably, right? I think we all are guilty of not reading enough, and I'm one of them. I will say that. I do read a little bit, not much. I'm an old-fashioned guy. I want to be able to flip through the pages and smell the pages of the book. You know what that smell is?
Yeah.
It's just a great smell.
The paper, yeah.
The paper. Smell the paper.
The ink.
The ink, the just the old school. It just feels, there's something about it. When I do read, I prefer the hard copy book over the e-version because if I'm on the phone or tablet or whatever, I'll get distracted.
Yeah. The thing is, Cole, I mean, we all have a lot of clutter in our lives. We all have things that are around. And hey, if you're a reader, you got books just stacking up and stacking up and stacking up. Takes up a lot of space. I got a huge music collection, right? Takes up a ton of space. I don't have that much space anymore.
Yeah.
Because it's all taken up by other crap. So give me the e-reader, give me the virtual copy, Cole, so that I can save the space. It's all there. It's actually easier to read because, if you get a book, you might get some. I bought a copy of American Prometheus. It's the story of J. Robert Oppenheimer, the guy that was the father of the atomic bomb. The font in this thing is friggin' itty bitty. It's a huge book. It's a huge book, and the font is tiny.
So you're getting old.
I got to get glasses, man. Yeah. So, but with an e-reader, I can just pump that up, man. Makes it a lot easier and a lot quicker to read. I'm gonna be real with you. I would much rather listen to an audiobook than read an
that's
ebook.
a good option.
But if I had to choose between a paper version and an ebook, give me the ebook because I can put it down. I can have all my books in one small device. I don't need shelves and shelves of books.
My only pushback on those audiobooks, Diesel, I'm for it. With my ADHD as bad as it is, I would prefer the audiobook. I can't stand the voices they choose. Like,
I love the voices.
You like
them?
them?
Yeah, I love
back in 1977. I just sound like me.
I'm a huge like Lord of the Rings nerd, so I love listening to Andy Serkis, the guy that played Gollum in the movies. Okay. I love listening to him narrate Lord of the Rings.
Sure.
Because number one, like sometimes as well as I do when you try to read people's names that you don't know, it's really hard to figure like, how do I say this name? And I've read names in a book where I'll read the name wrong the entire time for a 1,000-page book, get to the end of it, watch a YouTube video and be like, I was saying that wrong in my head the whole time. So you have somebody like that who is seasoned and professional at reading things with the right cadence. It's easier with names, especially. Like I just get lost. To me, it's easier just to listen.
It is easier to listen without a doubt. I do think that people who have like attention deficit disorders need.
I get bored
those
when
options. Well, here's my deal, and this is why I was so bad in my core classes in school. Like, I don't know how your college experience was with grades, but the classes I majored in, all A's. The classes I didn't major in, math, science, not so A's, right? Mm-hmm. The opposite, not so good. So my problem is if I'm reading something, even if it's a school book or whatever, my ADHD is so bad, if I start reading 2 sentences, I'm already thinking about something that's happening tomorrow. Like I'm so all over.
If I'm reading a long sentence, Cole, here's my problem is I start reading the sentence and then I get bored. So I want to jump to the end of the sentence to find out what happens. But then I don't know what happens because I've missed the context of the middle part of the sentence. So then I try to read in chunks going backwards.
That's bad.
So I'm like, do I have low grade ADHD?
I have
not ADHD, but dyslexia. Do I have dyslexia?
You might need to go.
I'm trying to read backwards in chunks and it doesn't work. And then it takes me twice as long. And then I get a headache and I put it down reading like 10 pages and I'm done.
I get told probably on a weekly basis, no kidding, that I have severe ADHD.
Are you crazy or just plain stupid?
I mean, I haven't really. I think it's something I get told a lot.
So there you go. Those are our 5 o'clock fight topics for the day. Round number 1. If you are an MTSU Blue Raider fan, are you upset about Derek Mason name dropping Boise State, App State, and James Madison as a fan base that you need to emulate? Cole said no. I said yes. Round 2. If you get sent to jail and can only watch one sport for the rest of your life, are you watching NASCAR or WNBA? Cole prefers to watch dudes on TV. I like looking at the ladies. Round 3, when you're reading, do you prefer a real paper book or do you like the e-copy? Cole likes the real thing. Give me the electronic version. That'll do it for the 5 o'clock fight. And if you want to suggest one, here's how. You can get us your 5 o'clock fight ideas by emailing me, diesel@thefanupstate.com. But text in right now, 71307. Start your text with keyword fan or message in on the stream. Tell us who won each round.
I had the "Are you crazy or plain stupid" queued up, and I hit the wrong button. So you heard Dabo instead, but it was supposed to be
"Are you crazy or just plain stupid?"
That's a great sound. Great. Bye.
Love it.
Sorry, I didn't mean to play Dabo, but Dabo did slip out there.
Love it. I'll go with the text line today, right. Cole. Let's see. G says Diesel wins rounds 1 and 3.
Oh, come on.
Cole wins round 2.
What'd I do to you, G?
Texter says ebooks are all good until the battery dies. That comes from Bo. Bo, have you ever used an e-reader? Those things, you charge them up once and they last for like months without ever having to recharge them. They are extremely low power. You just got to, it's not like your phone where you got to charge it up every day. Like it'll last for weeks and weeks.
The ebook lasts that long?
Yeah, my wife's got she's got a Kindle and it lasts forever. I don't think I've ever seen her. She got it at Christmas. I don't think I've seen her charge it more than like twice since Christmas. Yeah,
Does she just not read it or
No,
use
she
it?
does.
Really?
She does all the time. She reads it all the time.
Wow.
Let's see here. Texter says, give me visual and listening all day over reading. Let's see. Texter says, Cole wins round 1 and 3. Didn't give us his name. Let's see. Texter says, I would constantly find myself reading pages and not knowing anything that I just read. Just don't comprehend reading. Well, that was probably on your report card as a kid, Texter. That you read the page, you just don't. Your comprehension skills are low.
Yeah, mine are too. No hate there. Hey, listen, not everybody's a genius like Diesel. You know, not everybody can be intelligente.
I'm not Mensa, but I'm Mensa adjacent. I've never actually had a real IQ test. I don't know how smart I am.
I have never had one either that I know of. You know, that I know of. Keyword.
I'll tell you this, man. Since COVID, I've been getting very forgetful.
You think it just hurts your memory?
COVID brain, yeah. COVID brain.
I hope that's not true. It's not true. How long do you think it took you to realize that I had ADHD since everybody else tells me in my life? Day one, Ingles show, maybe?
I just thought it was because you drink so many energy drinks.
Well, I've cut down. All right, let me try to find our stream messages. Madcraft says, Cole round 1. Man, you should have done live golf as a channel option. Madcraft says Diesel round 2 just because of his point. It'd be hard to say NASCAR. No to NASCAR.
You want to just? Would you rather watch interviews with like Dave Blaney or Kelsey Plum?
Well, there's no doubt about that. I mean, of course, Kelsey Plum, right?
Yeah.
But we have to watch the actual sports. So
there's no defense in NASCAR.
Text line consensus. Did I win or lose?
Text line consensus. I think it was basically 50-50.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, it was kind of in between.
Oh.
That means we had some good fights today.
Some good arguments finally.
That's right.
Cole finally made a good argument because I'm told all the time.
We're going to have to quit doing this segment.
Yeah, no kidding. No kidding. I do want to let you know that quick programming note before we get into our next segment, because the next segment is very, very fascinating with this audio from Bob Costas. Going to be some disagreement, I believe. But a quick programming note, if you plan on going, if you're a golf guy and you plan on being at the BMW Charity Pro-Am this weekend, and when I say weekend, I mean tomorrow and Friday, Thursday, Friday, if you happen to be there, come by, say hi. Diesel and I will be there. You like that? Come by and say hi?
Come by and say hi.
That was unintentional, by the way. 100% unintentional. That's the closed joke.
Come by during our commercial breaks. We'll have about 3 minutes
go.
to talk to you. Don't stand there like a weirdo and stare at us.
That's
for
what come
15 minutes.
by and say hi really means,
yeah,
right?
if you come by and we're in the middle of a segment, go get yourself a beer, go get yourself a glass of wine, a whiskey, whatever. Hang out for a couple minutes, then come talk to us. It's weird when you stand there and stare at us.
Just like eye-to-eye contact. I always look away. I always just look down, okay? I'm embarrassed. I don't know what I'm doing.
Stare right at him. Make it weird.
What do I do? We will be at Carolina Country Club tomorrow. Let us know on the text line, 71307. Start your text with the word fan. If you will be there, Carolina Country Club, Diesel and I will be at tomorrow, and then Thornblade on Friday. Who knows? I might even swing over to the concert tomorrow night, Diesel. Do you know who's playing tomorrow night in downtown Spartanburg?
I don't.
I was told, and I just have to pull the message back up. So it's not a country artist this time. It's an artist that you will definitely know. I'll tell you on the other side, as well as this audio.
Suspense.
A little suspense. I frankly don't know what it is or who it is. And then a little audio from Bob Costas. Stay tuned because I have a sense there may be some disagreement with our Tolos and our audience on this. Coming up next, he's Diesel. I'm Cole Bryson, and this is the Fan Upstate. have found an answer for those wondering, those curious. I was talking about the BMW charity program that's happening this weekend. And the concert that BMW is putting on tomorrow night in Spartanburg, Diesel, the artist is Philip Phillips. And
Never heard of him.
You say you've never heard of him.
I just Wikipedia'd him. He was on season 11 of American Idol. He won.
Oh,
he won
Idol
season
guy.
11 of American Idol.
So he's an Idol guy. I think the name does sound familiar. I just cannot remember. Man, I'm trying to see what famous songs he has.
It's from Albany, Georgia.
You
So
can't
there
hear
you go,
this.
Local guy.
If you're on the stream, you can't hear this because we're not allowed to play it on the stream. But do you recognize this? You know that one.
That guy?
Yeah.
Oh. Okay, I know that song.
Gone, Gone, Gone. Not Gone, 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 Gone. Is the
Well,
name
it's
of the
not
song.
Gone Gone. It's not Gone 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 Gone. It's Gone Gone Gone.
So that is Philip Phillips. I don't know any other songs by Philip Phillips,
Yeah.
but Gone, Gone, Gone is, I think, the most popular song. So will be a lot of fun. It will be a lot of fun. We'll be there tomorrow and Friday. Come by, hang out with us.
You telling me Paul McCartney wasn't available?
I guess that was his first call, and they had to settle with Philip
Who's
Phillips.
Who had to make more phone calls to get a yes? South Carolina baseball or the
Oh.
BMW charity
Hey,
program?
Diesel, don't do that. You're terrible. Terrible. All right.
Terrible.
Agree, disagree, love it, hate it. This Bob Costas interview. WNBA has been a hot topic right now with Caitlin Clark. A lot of people are making it a racial thing. And this Bob Costas audio, Diesel, it went viral. I'll let you decide. Here's Bob.
There was an incident recently. Alyssa Thomas, who happens to be African-American, grabbed Angel Reese by the throat and threw her to the floor. Flagrant 2, ejected from the game. The reason why that doesn't spark as much conversation isn't just that Caitlin Clark is a bigger star than Alyssa Thomas. It's because it's a black on black incident.
Wow.
And you don't have
And
that dynamic that people can comment on, yes, but also exaggerate and make the entire story sometimes.
And also, no
that
one
is really
cares.
that is between
No
the
one
lines. what's
cared
going
about
on
the
here.
WNBA when women of a certain color were beating up and bruising each other, because it's been happening since the league's inception.
Mhm.
We have this star, this person that people love. They want to protect her. So now the new fans and the new analysts and the new people have so much to say. Bob, thank you for saying that and acknowledging that, because you're a legend in this sport. And you are also gracious enough to say, look, I'm not an expert in the WNBA, but what I do know from the history and what I do know, this is why she is being treated this way.
Yes,
and why no
because
one
I've,
cares
se-
about
I've seen
injuries.
it in every sport.
I
A
mean,
newcomer is tested and to
Yeah.
some extent resented.
Wow. So there's
Okay.
Bob Costas. You heard the ladies that were interviewing him. This was a clip from CNN. And they were talking about how for years now, there's been women beating up and bruising one another of the same color, but nobody talks about it. Is there a fine line between protecting your star and also understanding that too far is too far?
Well, Cole, I mean, I would be shocked if you told me that Lisa Lobo never took a hard foul in the WNBA.
Mhm.
Big player, like big star, big girl. I'm sure she did. Look, I mean, truth is we didn't care about it. You know, the collective conscience didn't care about it. We all of a sudden do because we have a new star in the game. And I think what Bob there said there specifically about Caitlin Clark was absolutely right. It's a story as old as time. When a newcomer comes into a sport, especially one that comes in with a lot of hype
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of interest, they're going to get tested. LeBron James was tested as a rookie.
Sure.
Michael Jordan was tested as a rookie. All of these guys are tested, and all of these ladies are tested as rookies in the league. Let's not act like that part of it is anything new at all, because that's been going on since hyped up players have been drafted, since there was a draft. That's been happening. So like that's nothing new.
Sure.
I'm not interested in that part of the story. Saying that we weren't covering black athletes committing hard fouls or other, not actual basketball fouls, if just the way he described this play here, it's not a basketball play. We didn't cover it because it's two black athletes doing this. I don't know. I'm not buying that. I'm not buying that, Bob. I mean, I don't know. I think it's just because we weren't really paying attention to the sport before then.
So here's my stance on it.
Like, did we not cover what happened with Ron Artest when he went into the crowd because it was a black athlete? No, it was. We covered it because it was newsworthy, because it was crazy to see.
So Caitlin Clark is a star. There's no doubt about it. There's no doubt that stars, in a sense, Diesel, should be protected. My stance on it is this. I have been an NBA fan for a long time. My childhood growing up, you know who my favorite player is. He was black. My favorite player to ever dribble a basketball is a black athlete, an African-American. I am going to defend LeBron James until the day I die, right? I'm a LeBron James guy. I do not think there's any weight to, well, she's a white athlete, and now that she's being fouled, there's people talking about it because we're having to protect their star. I think that is a fabricated story in a sense of, look, I'll tell you this. The NBA has African-American athletes. It has Caucasian athletes. It has athletes from overseas. And personally, I enjoy watching all of them. My favorite athlete is LeBron James. I love LeBron James. I don't think that anybody complains about fouls and gets fouled in the NBA more than LeBron James. So to say that this thing is based on race, is there a piece of it based on race? Maybe for some people. But if you're making it about race, I say that's a you problem.
No, I think where this comes from, Cole, is that Caitlin Clark is a star who has brought a lot of new eyeballs to the game who otherwise have never watched WNBA.
100%.
They are not familiar with the level of physicality that women in the WNBA play with. And I think it's probably shocking to a lot of people to see this level of physicality. I mean, before this, Cole, what's the biggest women's sport? I mean, women's soccer, international women's soccer. I mean, you can make an argument for, and this is much more recently, but it's a much different sport. Women's MMA, watching Ronda Rousey, the way she would just beat the living tar out of opponents, and the way that the other females in MMA have done it. But that's also, again, a sport that is a niche sport, women's MMA, compared to the millions of people around the world who watch women's soccer. So maybe it's possible, Cole, that women's international soccer is the most physical sport that a lot of these people who are watching the WNBA now had ever seen before. So this is a new level of physicality than they're used to. And especially when you compare that to women's college basketball. Maybe they've just gotten into women's college basketball and you didn't see that level of physicality on display when Iowa was playing LSU and South Carolina's playing UConn. You didn't see players grabbing each other by the throat.
So my only thing is, like, and again, I'll get to some of these texts because they're very good texts. I watch South Carolina women's basketball and watch LSU women's basketball. It's a very physical brand of basketball. Like, for these people that are shocked that the WNBA is physical, well, if you've been watching SEC basketball on the women's level,
well, the truth is most of those people hadn't watched
and
SEC
I guess that's the problem, right?
Until Caitlin Clark became a star.
And Caitlin Clark didn't play against a lot of those teams until the playoffs.
Correct.
Until the postseason. And guess what happened when she did play against them? She got beat.
Yeah.
Happened twice. LSU 2 years ago in the national championship was a much more physical team, dominated the paint, really good defensively. Caitlin Clark looked lost. South Carolina, same deal.
We still live in a time, Cole, when a lot of people, I wouldn't necessarily say most at this point, but a lot of people are not regularly exposed to women-on-women violence, right? So they're not familiar with this level of physicality in women's sports. They're not used to watching women bang into each other when they're going up for rebounds. Number one, they're definitely not used to seeing two women playing basketball, not MMA, different thing, but they're not used to watching women on a basketball court behave like it's MMA. And so maybe it's just sort of catching them off guard, like, whoa,
Yeah.
didn't know, never watched the sport before because, well, Caitlin Clark is the reason why I watch WNBA now. And whoa, this shocks me to see this level of physicality in the sport.
So I hear you on those points. I just say this. For me, it has more to do with Caitlin Clark's not built to play a physical brand of basketball. Like, if you watch her and you get offended by that, I don't know what to tell you. Like, when she played against physical teams, she didn't do well. South Carolina dominated. LSU 2 years ago dominated both championship games. Guess who went home with a trophy? It wasn't Caitlin Clark. Now, I'm not advocating for hard fouls like we talked about the other day, Diesel. I'm not advocating for that. That was across the line for me. I just think that Caitlin Clark in the WNBA is going to have to figure out how she can play a very isolated game of basketball to where she does rely on her three-point game, much like Steph Curry did, to be what gets her or makes her career. I'm not saying Steph Curry had to use that because he wasn't good in other areas. I'm just saying Steph Curry couldn't go up against the big guys, the centers of the league. He knew his role, and he knew that he had to be a threat from outside. Caitlin Clark is a threat from outside. I say, Caitlin, stay outside. That's where you're best.
Cole, women's basketball as a whole, not just college, not just pro, women's basketball will not come into its own and be respected as a sport until the coverage gets beyond this type of coverage, right? The coverage needs to be about the competitiveness of the game, not about the shocking stories within the game. Part of it is the way we all consume media these days. We're all looking for that 5-second bite.
Yeah.
Right. We're looking for that 5-second video clip of somebody choking somebody on a court. That's shocking. We're not used to seeing that. So it's shared and it goes viral. Guess what? Not a lot of people are sharing a lot of video clips about somebody hitting a three-pointer in the WNBA. We're not talking about the WNBA on its merits of being good basketball.
Correct.
We're talking about the shocking stories that happen within the game that are not basketball. So I think until then, Cole, it'll remain, for lack of a better word, a little bit of a sideshow, a little bit of an oddity until the coverage becomes, this is how good the game is.
I don't disagree with that. Texter from the 587 disagrees with you, Diesel. He says, I beg to differ. Diesel, we've all seen women on women violence at Waffle House. Texter, don't go there. It's funny, though. All right, from the 850, texter says, fan, you're supposed to start every text with a fan. This texter did that correctly. To say it has nothing to do with race is as silly as saying it's only about race. This country has zero ability to discuss nuance in sports. Nuance in sports. It's our worst quality. Let me see if I can read this next text from the 432. Sorry, my screen's really far away. There's a piece of it that is race for sure, but also this other player has been kicked off not one but two teams for similar actions. I guess that texter's talking about the girl who hard fouled Caitlin Clark, right? We were talking about that yesterday, I believe. Listen, does it have everything to do with race? No, I don't think it does. But I said earlier, texter, I think for some people, whoever's discussing this has their own ability to make it about race or not about race. Okay? We can make it about race. We can make it not about race. We may not get clicks if we make it not about race, but the people who are going to make it about race, like Bob Costas, are getting played on radio stations.
Well, you know that what will absolutely make it about race is if a black player grabbed Caitlin Clark by the throat.
Sure.
That I'm not saying I would make it about that. I'm just saying that I'm predicting where other media outlets and pundits would go with this.
Texter says, Caitlin Clark will gain some weight, in Dion's words, better get me now. Oh, you think Caitlin Clark's going to be the better get me now kind of? Listen, I'm not saying she'll be a bust. I'm just saying she needs to realize where her strengths are and that in the college game, you can do certain things. In the pro game, as a guard, there are some things you can't do.
She doesn't have the protection of her teammates around her. She doesn't have the protection like her Iowa teammates around her. She doesn't have the protection of the officials in the league knowing that this is the biggest star in our league, so that we have to baby this person. We have to call every foul on that person. Right. She doesn't have that. She may gain it over the course of a career. What'd you say the other day about Michael Jordan? You played some audio of Isaiah Thomas saying, man, that dude flopped more than anybody else. That dude complained more than anybody else about getting fouled all the time. Well, Michael Jordan didn't get that as a rookie. He didn't get that as a second year player in the NBA. He got it once he became a star. And Caitlin Clark may eventually get that. I mean, do you think they were calling every time somebody breathed on Tom Brady the wrong way when he was a rookie or when he first took over for Drew Bledsoe? No, he started getting that treatment after he became a star.
Do I want the game of WNBA basketball to keep thriving? Sure. Do I want to keep having conversations like this? No. I want, to your point, Diesel, I want it to be about basketball. Unfortunately, right now, it's not about basketball. It's about the hard fouls on the new star. And Bob Costas was right. And you pointed it out earlier in the sense of, hey, every star who's new on the scene has to go through this. Now, it's different for every one of them, obviously, but we shall see. I think Clark's a good player. I like her. I hope the WNBA continues to excel, Diesel, but it's a physical league, and she's either going to have to get used to it, or I don't know what the other choice is. You get used to it. It's physical. I'm not condoning hard fouls. It's a physical brand of basketball. Can we quit talking about it? Play the sport. If you don't like it, leave.
I'm going to be real with you, Cole, and tell you I have not watched a single WNBA game this year.
I've not watched a full one. I've watched bits and pieces, but not a full.
I haven't watched it, and I'm probably not gonna. I'm going to be real with you. And it's not because I hate women. It's just because WNBA doesn't appeal to me. When we come back, Cole, let's get to the NFL. I've got a list of 5 NFL quarterbacks who find themselves in a really tough spot for 2024. And you as a Cowboy fan are not going to like number 4 on this list. That's on the other side right here on Wire to Wire, 97.7 FM in Greenville, 97.1 FM in Spartanburg. We got you Tolos in tow. Appreciate you being here. This is The Fan Upstates. This might be the segment that I make Cole walk out on me today. You wouldn't be the first show host to ever get mad and walk out on me.
Why would you do that?
Oh, Cole. 5 NFL quarterbacks who find themselves in a very unenviable position. Purgatory. Quarterback purgatory for the 2024 season. I'm going to give you 5, Cole. One of these, unfortunately, is yours. Okay, so can we agree that there are 3 classes of quarterbacks? There are quarterbacks who elevate the team. There are those who weigh their teams down. And there are those in the middle. There's average starters who aren't good enough to win a playoff game, but aren't so bad that the team has no choice but to move on. Generally speaking, would you agree with it? Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Cole, there are a couple of quarterbacks and teams this year who better change their fate or they're going to be moving on. You can't sit in this purgatory state for too much longer. You got to make a decision. So I'm going to give you 5.
Oh,
Cole.
man.
5 quarterbacks and teams who are in quarterback purgatory who better do something soon. Okay. Number 1, Kyler Murray at Arizona.
Oh, I like this one.
Yeah, Kyler is coming off a torn ACL in 2023. He got himself a shiny new toy in Marvin Harrison Jr., but he's been in the league now for 6 years, 0 playoff wins. You can't necessarily cut Kyler right now because that'd cost you over $100 million in dead cap money.
I thought he had playoff wins on the video game.
Yeah,
because he loves playing
because he's
video.
not studying his playbook, right? He's winning games on Madden, but not in real life because he's too busy doing that and not studying the playbook. Kyler Murray, the name still holds weight, right? It still holds a little bit of weight, but he's been in Arizona for a long time, hasn't gotten it done. He's been injured. They're clearly trying to help him win by getting him Marvin Harrison Jr., but like it needs to be a bleep or get off the pot kind of year for Kyler Murray, right?
I'm going to go as far to say no, it doesn't carry weight anymore. Kyler Murray's name does not carry weight anymore. And I know we may have to finish some of these in the next segment, but I'll tell you this. I think that the weight that his name did carry, because let's be honest, when he came out of Texas as a high school football recruit, there was no bigger name than Kyler Murray. He was the guy.
Seems like he really wanted to play baseball, but he got pushed into playing football, and we're in this room now. Moving on, the New York Giants with quarterback Daniel Jones. He's looked bad through 3 seasons in the NFL, or he looked bad through 3 seasons, and then Brian Daboll came along. They helped him cut his turnovers down. He led his team to a playoff win, signed this huge new contract, Cole, but he's really kind of dragging them down with that massive deal that he's gotten. He's only gotten them to the playoffs and won a game one time. If you're a Giants fan, you got to just be like, ugh, can we please finally get rid of Daniel Jones?
So
can we take our luck? Can we try our luck in the draft and go get another quarterback, and maybe this one will hit and be better than Daniel Jones?
Diesel, I hear you. I just don't blame it on Daniel Jones. I blame this on the Giants. I blame the Giants for signing him to the massive deal that they signed him to.
Yeah, that was a stupid move.
That was stupid. Yeah. Now, Daniel Jones, at times, he has looked like a decent quarterback. At other times, he looks like, the worst quarterback to ever walk the face of the earth. No, he's not the guy. He should be on the hot seat list that you have. I don't think it's all his fault.
Right, but they can't necessarily move on from him at this point because who's going to pick up that contract?
Nobody.
Nobody, right? And so they got to pay him, right? They got to keep him on the roster until they can afford to get rid of him. I'm going to move a little bit to the west there, Cole, and go to Cleveland and the situation they find themselves in with Deshaun Watson. They are in quarterback purgatory in Cleveland. Some of these are all starting to add up or line up with very similar situations. They made a desperation move to go get Deshaun Watson. It cost them 3 first-round picks, $230 million in guaranteed money. Ooh. But Deshaun has been mostly unavailable for the Cleveland Browns. He's kind of showing this attitude of I don't want to be here a lot of the time. That fun-loving, jovial guy that we all know here locally as Clemson fans and people who watch Clemson football.
Yeah.
What kind of personality Deshaun Watson has, but he's not showing that obviously since all the legal issues came out and the move to Cleveland. He's happy because he's got $230 million in the bank, but the Browns are in that same situation that, well, he's not really out there available and winning you a whole lot of games, but you can't move on from him because you can't afford.
Can they not massage the contract at all? What?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Maybe they could all get together in a room and just rub out the details. How about that? Cole, I'm going to move through these next two very quickly here so we don't have to push it to the other side. I go with New Orleans and Derek Carr. I know you're not a Derek Carr fan at all. Decidedly average throughout his career. He plays in a weak division. He's not winning the division like he should be. He's got a hungry rookie behind him in Spencer Rattler. I think they find themselves in a tough position with Derek Carr that they don't want to move on from him, but they probably should. And then finally, Cole, I saved the worst for last for you. Dallas and Dak Prescott, 2 playoff wins in 8 seasons. He's never made a conference title game. He's got a huge contract. You got to ask Cole, if he hasn't done it by now, is it ever going to happen?
Do I have to comment?
Yes,
I'll comment. Listen, it's not going to happen with Dak. I have had this fight with many Cowboy friends of mine. I gave him 8 years. I'm Dak'd out. I'll leave it at that. I can't do it. I'm done with it.
There you go. 5 teams and 5 quarterbacks who find themselves in purgatory going into the 2024 season.
All right, we will update you on what we know about the South Carolina coaching search, what we are hearing, and who we think you might need to get prepared to name your coach. Next. The search continues, Diesel. The conversation continues about Landon Powell, Monty Lee, what potential candidates could be in the running for South Carolina baseball. It continues to get more and more fascinating, okay? I want to read something that I love. This is on Twitter or on X. I'm trying to train myself to say X, but it's just hard.
Just say Twitter.
Twitter.
Say what you want to say.
This comes from assistant baseball coach at North Greenville, Trey Dyson, who is an assistant with North Greenville's head coach, Landon Powell, right? Diesel, I love this tweet from Trey Dyson. So he is quoting a tweet from a buddy of mine, Tyler, and the tweet from Tyler said, if Landon Powell ever wants to be the coach at South Carolina, he needs to take a step up first. Very similar to what Chris Phillips told us the other day, right? Go after Winthrop, Citadel, Charleston Southern. There's a huge difference in D1 baseball and D2 baseball. Well, Trey Dyson quoted that tweet. And this is what Trey had to say. You mean like better facilities, better technology, more money, more tutors, full training staffs, your own weight room, nutrition on demand, student managers, endless gear, huge fan base, and every top prospect in America dreaming of playing in the SEC? It's a very valid point from Trey Dyson, who is, again, an assistant coach at North Greenville with Landon. You know, we've had this conversation a lot. We've had this conversation a lot this week about, well, does Landon have to go coach somewhere else before he can be qualified to coach at South Carolina? I've said no. I thought from the very get-go Landon Powell would be the perfect hire, but Trey brings up a good point, a good counter-argument, Diesel, and says, look, yeah, it may be different, but you're given a lot more resources at the D1 level too.
Yeah, I mean, Cole, I think Landon Powell will be a great hire. I would not have any shortcomings or misgivings about Landon Powell at all. But you and I are thinking like fans, right? You and I are thinking like people who remember what Landon Powell did at South Carolina. You're thinking about it like a guy who, this is your alma mater. This is the coach of your alma mater. You have an emotional connection to Landon Powell and want to see him do well. You and I are not thinking like stewards who are in charge of a multi-sport, multi-million-dollar entity that is the University of South Carolina athletics department. They want to get as much of a sure thing as they can possibly get. And if that in their mind means we got to have somebody who's got Division I experience, it's kind of like, Cole, there's layers to this, right? There's steps to this. You don't go from being a summer intern to the CEO, right? That's just not really how it works. You have to pay your dues. You have to do your time in multiple jobs. I mean, normally, Cole, just in this building, since I've worked here, I've had like 5 or 6 different jobs. I've worked promotions. I've worked overnights on B93.7. I did weekend shows on the Planet. I've done weekday shows on the Planet. I've done production. I've done promotions work. I've done producing on this station. So I've cut my teeth doing fill-in mornings on ROQ. So people treat everything, Cole, like there's a system to this. There's a way things are done. You work your way up the ladder, right? You don't go from the bottom step to the top step just like that.
So I'm going to play devil's advocate and counter that argument with a man who won 2 national championships at Clemson. Dabo Swinney did not work his way up any ladder, right? If I had to play devil's advocate, I hear you. And for the most part, in the corporate world and most coaching searches, you're right. That is the way it happens. You can't just go from coaching middle school down here at wherever you're coaching middle school ball at and holding the chains on Saturday morning to going and coaching and be the next coach at Burns High School.
I mean, even Kalen DeBoer had like 5 stops between being a high school coach and being the University of Alabama coach.
And I get it. Listen, for the most part, for the majority of cases, that is correct. All I'm saying is there is those outliers, right? There are outliers in this world. There are Dabo Sweeneys. There are guys that can come in and make an immediate impact and really surprise people.
The kids on Instagram now say somebody who's just built different.
Built different. So if you don't want to take a chance on a guy like Landon Powell, I understand why. I get the points. To your points, I get why. I'm not saying if South Carolina doesn't hire Landon Powell, it'll be abysmal. I'm just saying I think that Landon Powell has what it takes to go win at South Carolina as the head guy. If he ends up being an assistant, great. I don't know if he will. I have not heard back from him since the last time I reached out. I have heard rumors that he could be in the works to be an assistant to Amani Lee. Again, all rumors, nothing in stone or in writing yet, nothing official yet. I'm just saying that every now and then there is an outlier. And if you can go in, Diesel, at an institution like North Greenville that has a lot less resources than a D1 school. Like, for example, when Landon Powell got to North Greenville, Diesel, they did not have the nice, beautiful stadium that they have now, right? He was recruiting players to come play in a cow pasture, and the stands, if you turned around, you seen those old wooden railroad ties?
Yeah.
That's what they were.
Really?
They were wooden railroad ties. The entire stands were wooden railroad ties. It was terrible. They played intramurals there. I'm telling you, from firsthand experience, people sat on railroad ties to watch Landon Powell his first year at North Greenville. The year before, they won like 8 games. He comes and turns the program around. I'm not saying that, don't hear me wrong. I'm not saying Landon Powell is the only choice and they should only hire Landon Powell. I'm just saying that I think he would be one of those Dabo Swinney, Lamont Paris-like outliers that can surprise a lot of people, because here's the reality of it. If he came to South Carolina and got them back to Omaha, nobody would be talking about, well, he only coached D2 ball. They'd all be throwing parades. They'd all be going crazy in Columbia. But it's a narrative that fans use because they have to reach for something.
Cole, I'm not going to push back on you and say that, I'm not going to argue and say Landon Powell can't be successful at South Carolina.
Yeah.
I fully believe that he would have a very good chance at being successful at South Carolina. But again, I try to think of things the way that administrators think of things, not the way that that fans think of things. Cole, we had a conversation earlier in the show, and I know you plan on getting to this here in this segment about the rumors, the unofficial rumors that are picking up speed, picking up steam, that Monty Lee could very well be the next head coach at the University of South Carolina. We have a poll up on Twitter. Would love for you to go vote in this thing and let us know how you feel, you Gamecock fans. How would you feel if Monty Lee is the next head coach at South Carolina? You've got 4 options that are stoked, I feel okay about it, but kind of underwhelmed, disappointed, or angry. And Cole, you've got a good poll when all the results are fairly equal. 37% are stoked. LFG, you know what that means. The kids say it all the time.
Sure. Let's freaking go.
Yeah. The second most voted option, 26% of the votes said they'd be disappointed if Monty Lee was the next head coach.
Wow.
Okay, but kind of underwhelmed, 21%, and 15% say they would be angry if it's Monty Lee.
So the majority of the fans that voted say they'd be stoked.
You could say here, or you could argue here, Cole, that 58% of the overall votes would be positive about the hiring, and about 40%, 42% would be negative about the hiring.
So let's go to the Monty Lee conversation. Cox on top tonight. Big in-state right-handed pitcher that can throw up the 95 in the 2025 class just committed. The day before that, he had another top recruit commit. Monty Lee has been the interim coach now for 2 days, just over 2 days, just over 48 hours, and is landing 2 top recruits. As an athletic director in Ray Tanner, obviously, Diesel, you see that, you know about it. Does that and should that, and I'm asking you, the Tolos, you, the audience as well, 71307, start your text with the word fan. Will that and does that sway Ray Tanner in his decision making?
Well, this is South Carolina's first baseball hiring in the modern transfer portal era. So you definitely have to think about it in the terms of how much do we stand to lose if we don't hire the guy that the players here and the recruits that are on the line already like. I would say that Ray Tanner cannot let that be the only factor in his decision, right? Because then you are a prisoner to what your recruits want. You're a prisoner to what your players want, and you'll never hire somebody that has never or that's not currently on staff because the players won't know him, right?
Yeah.
So you can't let that be the only thing that makes the decision for you, but it certainly is a factor. I mean, then again, Cole, if you bring in a Chris Pollard, if you bring in a Kevin O'Sullivan, you're going to get great recruits coming in anyway. You're going to get guys who are on those teams wanting to stay with their coach. You're going to get players who otherwise wouldn't have considered South Carolina saying, oh, wow, they're taking this seriously. I know Kevin O'Sullivan. He's a big guy, a big high-name coach. He's somebody I want to go play for.
I think it's a very interesting conversation from the point of, yes, it matters. It doesn't dictate, to your point, whether they do hire Monty Lee. Monty Lee failed at Clemson. If you look at Monty Lee's failure at Clemson as a cause not to hire him, you have legs. Like you've got legs, you've got an argument, right?
He failed by having a roughly 650 winning percentage at Clemson.
Just didn't do what they're supposed to do.
Just didn't
in the
get him into the
postseason.
supers.
Right. So that argument would have legs.
You ain't got no legs, Lieutenant Dane.
So some arguments would have legs if you said Diesel. Well, Monty Lee, he did fail at Clemson, but guess what? I would rather have a guy who failed at the D1 level rather than an unknown from the D2 level. Because that's
something. Yeah, I mean, maybe he learned something with his job. And look, you know, I advocate and I say this all the time. Circumstances matter.
They do.
I couldn't tell you what the circumstances might have been at Clemson that prevented them from making the supers with the teams and players that Monty Lee had. I'm sure he had just about every resource he wanted.
Sure.
I'm sure he had a list of highly sought after recruits. For whatever reason, he just didn't get it done. Now, if you wanted to go back and you know, comb through his, what was he at Clemson for, 7 years or so?
Roughly.
If you wanted to go back and comb through his 7-year career and say, this, and this, these were the bad decisions that cost us games and cost us chances to get into the supers. Okay, you might have an argument, but you could also say, like you just pointed out, Cole, those were all learning experiences. If he was in this situation and he made a bad call, well, maybe he learned from that scenario. If he was in this position and he did this when he should have done that, well, maybe he could have learned something from that. Or, Cole, how many times did he make the right call and it just didn't work out?
Sure. I think there's a lot of value in failing, okay? I know that we live in a world that tells you can't fail. I know that we live in a culture and society that says failing's a terrible thing, Diesel, but I will say this.
Don't you know as soon as you get fired, you're done, you're out of the game, you're never going to be a coach again?
Well, that's the way a lot of people look at it, but you know, the way I look at it is I failed many times. I've messed up many times.
I've never failed.
Right, and we know that, but guess what? Every time you do fail, every time you do mess up, hopefully you learn from it, right? Now, if you keep making those same mistakes, you can't consider that a failure, right? You're continuing to repeat those. Monty Lee, one outing at Clemson compared to the Charleston outing, the Clemson outing was not great. But again, I think something can be learned from it.
Texter says, I love this show. Finally, local talk. Best text of the day, Texter. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Texter.
Texter says, Monty Lee is getting the job. It's definitely going to happen. The players like him, the recruits like him, and he's a good coach. Yeah, South Carolina could do a lot worse than hiring Monty Lee. If your trepidation is that he took a huge payday and worked at your rival school for a while and won 65% of the games, which is really good, by the way, which is only about 50 points lower than Ray Tanner's win percentage at South Carolina, then I think you're making a really weak argument.
You know, there's a great conversation to be had about Ray Tanner, and we talked about it earlier today and have talked about it this week as well. With Ray Tanner surely having to feel the pressure, right? Surely he has to feel the pressure. Maybe I'm just throwing this out there and seeing if it'll stick, Diesel. Maybe Ray Tanner at 66 years old, making $1.75 million a year, thinks to himself, you know what? I'm on the way out. I don't have many years left. Monty's one of my guys. Bringing someone from the outside with Kingston didn't work. Let's give it to someone who knows South Carolina baseball in and out.
Mhm.
And let's even possibly, I don't know, bring in a guy like Landon Powell as an assistant if we can pay him enough to get him away from Greenville.
It's
And
a
you know
smart
what?
move.
We'll go out with a bang. If it works, everybody will think Ray Tanner's the best AD to ever walk the earth. If it doesn't, guess what? He'll retire a millionaire, right? The worst thing that could happen to him is somebody says, well, he sucked as an AD. But guess what? He still was a great baseball player.
Man, I would be a very happy man if people told me I sucked, but I was still worth multi-million dollars.
You think?
It's like, I've done pretty well in my life. What are you doing? Flipping burgers for a living? What's that pay? Like $12 an hour? $10 an hour?
Yeah, I think I could,
you tell me how stupid I am.
And that's why I always say, like, NFL owners, at the end of the day, they may say they care about winning, but I've had this conversation a million times about Jerry Jones. Jerry Jones cares about the Dallas Cowboys on the field, but Diesel, if you wake up in the morning and your bank account's B's, do you really care what happens on the field? I'm not saying Ray Tanner's even close to that. I'm
Jerry
just saying,
Jones, David Tepper, those guys like that, they are businessmen first before they are football heads.
And again, I'm not saying Ray Tanner's in that ballpark. I'm just saying he's 66, almost 67. He made a lot of money. 1.175 is what he's making now. He will remain as the AD through June 30th, 2026. I would expect in 2026, when he's 68, there's a very good possibility at 68 years old, Ray Tanner says, look, I paid my dues. I'm going to the beach. And guess what? He deserves it.
He and Gary Gilmore can hang out on the beach together.
Yeah. So again, if he
Gary's
has
already there.
If he has 2 years left, Diesel, is he concerned about being liked, or is he concerned about, you know what? I know Monty. I trust Monty. Let's try to do this thing.
I mean, he knows very well, Cole, that this hire could outlast him in Columbia. This hire, if this hire does well, this coach is going to be here longer than I will. It is my job to set this university up and this program up in the best way I possibly can before I leave. And hey, guess what? I get to enjoy the fruits of my labor and hopefully watch this guy win us a bunch of ball games in the meantime. Cole, when we come back, we had a fantastic conversation earlier in the show with Jason Priester from the Clemson Insider. We talked all things Clemson, Florida in the Super Regionals. We even asked him about his opinions on Monty Lee. He's a guy who's spent a lot of time around Monty Lee over the past couple of years as he's potentially going to Clemson's bitter rival. How does he feel about the possibility of Monty Lee taking the job there in Columbia? That's coming up next here on The Fan Upstate. Aha. In the College Baseball World Series, we go to the expert right now, Jason Priester, Clemson Insider, covers Clemson baseball, among other things, for the Clemson Insider. Number one, Jason, appreciate you taking some time to jump on with us today. But will Clemson need all 3 games to dispatch Florida this weekend?
That's a Florida team that's kind of getting hot at just the right time. You know, that's a team that was ranked number 1 in the preseason, so there's no question that's a talented team. I could easily see this series going all 3 games. Absolutely.
Jason, you know what's so interesting is we talked about all season, a team like Florida, you know, they were inconsistent through the regular season, inconsistent through conference play, but then all of a sudden the tournament gets here, they start improving in their pitching, when their bats get going, they're a very hard team to beat. In your mind, what can you put a finger on that makes this Florida team so good?
They just got a bunch of talent, man. They got one of the best players in the country, and Jack Castiglione. You know, he's a guy that can beat you in a bunch of different ways. They've got really good pitching. When they're on, they're really good. When they're playing at their best, that is one of the best teams at the country. But like you said, they've been a little bit inconsistent this year. Haven't quite lived up to expectations. And again, as you said, nobody's been able to really put a finger on why. But you always want to get hot at just the right time. Thought Clemson got a little too hot too early last year, and maybe this Florida team's getting hot at the right time. It's a matchup we don't see very often. I think only twice in history has Clemson and Florida played. If I'm remembering, if I read that right, it has been a long time since these 2 teams have played. Should be an exciting weekend.
Jason Priester, the Clemson Insider, joins us here on Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson. Jason, how much do you make of Clemson's slightly easier road to get here, not just in the regionals, but also when you look back on the past sort of month of the season? They haven't necessarily played a really tough slate over the past month, whereas Florida has played a tougher slate in the SEC. I mean, I would compare it maybe to what the Atlanta Braves faced last year in the playoffs, not having to play meaningful baseball leading up to that first series where they got booted.
Well, I mean, they were, you know, there's something to be said about having your spot locked up in the conference tournament a couple of weeks early, but you're still playing for seed and you're still playing for a national seed. I still think they had things to play for down the stretch. Definitely think Florida had the tougher slate over the past few weeks of the season. And Clemson definitely was not playing their best baseball as we headed to Charlotte, as we got to Charlotte. You know, didn't even end up having to face Vanderbilt in the regional last week. Just had to knock off Coastal a couple of times to advance to the Super. So we'll see this weekend, you know, which team's a little bit more battle-tested. You know, I think Florida's been a little bit more battle-tested of late, but I do think Clemson played some legit competition, especially over the first half of the season.
Jason, is there any concern on your end with Clemson starting pitching? I mean, last Sunday, I didn't think that it was a bad outing by Darden, but when you look at the potential rotation after Tristan Smith this weekend, does any of the pitching concern you or no?
I think that's one of the biggest questions, no doubt about it. I think any postseason success Clemson can have hinges on that starting pitching. And will they be able to go deep enough into games to not tax that bullpen? You need Aiden Kanat going 5, 6 innings, maybe 7. You need to get 5 innings at least out of Tristan Smith. And who's that third guy going to be? You know, Ethan Darden got knocked around a little bit, as you said, early. And that last game against Coastal Carolina, you know, the hidden ball trick kind of settled him down, and he went on to have a couple of 1, 2, 3 innings. But when they pulled off that hidden ball trick, Eric Backett was coming out of the dugout right then to yank him. So, I mean, he was getting knocked around a little bit. He has gotten knocked around a little bit in his 2 previous starts before that. Before that, he'd been pretty consistent. You know, he just hit a little roadblock over his past 3 starts. Again, thought his final couple innings over the weekend were solid, but that's a good question. To me, it all hinges on that starting pitching. Do they decide to go with Ethan Darden as the third guy? Do they look at somebody else, maybe like freshman Jacob McGovern, maybe, who's been really good for them, but we've only seen him out of the bullpen. Or maybe a guy like Mac Marshall, who's had some spot starts here and there, or maybe even Billy Barlow, who was used as the midweek starter for much of the season. It'll be interesting to see what Eric Backus decides to do if we do indeed get to that third and deciding game.
Jason, we spent a lot of time, going through the numbers yesterday, comparing Clemson and Florida batting average, slugging percentages, stealing bases, the success rates there, home runs hit over the course of the season. How do you see Clemson needing to beat Florida? Do you see this being a high-powered offense, home run type of series, or are they going to have to play some small ball to beat this team?
Maybe a little bit of both. I was surprised with how few home runs Clemson hit over the weekend. This is a team that's hit over 100 home runs this season. So they know how to hit the blown ball. They've been pretty good at manufacturing runs when they need to. They had some struggles with runners in scoring position over the weekend, although I thought the numbers in that final game probably looked a little worse than they were because they hit some balls on the button just right at guys, and Coastal's outfielders made some really good plays in the outfield. But I think Clemson's going to have to do a little bit of both. If they want to, move on and go to Omaha for the first time in almost 15 years, they're going to have to play some small ball. They might have to steal some bases. We've seen Eric Backus many times this year. He's not afraid to bunt a guy over or pull off a double squeeze when he needs to. They've done that a couple of times this year. And again, they're perfect. There's some guys in that lineup perfectly capable of hitting long balls. You got guys like Jimmy Overtop, Blake Wright, all with double-digit home runs. So I think they'll need to do a little bit of all of it if they want to advance.
Jason Priester of the Clemson Insider joining us on the Fan Upstate. Jason, when you saw the Clemson Tigers clinch on Sunday, the celebration began. The Clemson fans had already loved Eric Backus, but, man, there was something about the way he embraced the fans on Sunday. Obviously, I was there and saw him get up on the wall, and it was one of those kind of goosebump scenes where it just kind of catches you off guard, but it seems like he is embracing the fan base as much as the fan base is embracing him. What makes this hire and this short 2-year tenure so special, in your opinion?
Him having been here before, he's a little bit familiar with the fan base and the expectations. And, I think he understands what this program's capable of and kind of how they've maybe underachieved a little bit over the past few years and not been to Omaha since 2010, a program that, used to be known for making it to Omaha quite consistently. He kind of embraced that when he got here. He made no bones about it. His expectations are to go to Omaha, and the fans just bought right in. I think he was the perfect home run hire at just the right time for this program. And man, he has been really good in his first 2 years. These fans here love him. Like you said, it was a very surreal moment when they finished that game all Saturday or Sunday night, whichever night it was. The days are running together, but seeing him out there on that outfield wall, man, with those fans in the cheap seats in the Cajun Cafe, it's been a long time coming, and it was like you could feel that monkey coming off the program's back almost. You could almost literally feel it as you were sitting out there.
Find him on Twitter at JP_Priester. He's got some fantastic notes posted up on Dabo's 2-day football camp. But Jason, you had a lot of firsthand experience covering Monty Lee during his tenure at Clemson. Taking any fandom out of this and a reason why you wouldn't want to see him take over as head coach at South Carolina, why is he the right guy for South Carolina if he is, in fact, going to be the next head coach?
I always liked Monty. He's a great guy, very knowledgeable about baseball. Great recruiter, especially in this state with all his ties to some of the coaches here. If he's the guy, and I'm not saying he is, I don't know who they're going to hire, but if he is the guy that they decide on, I think the recruits will love it. I think some of the current players would love it. Maybe keeps some of those guys in the fold instead of maybe looking at other options that they clean house and bring in a whole new coaching staff. There's something to be said about continuity if you decide to go that route, but we'll see how it plays out. He's a guy that definitely deserves another shot at a big school somewhere, I think.
Jason, there was a lot of conversation during the game as well as on social media after the game for the PA music Sunday night as Clemson, clinched that regional championship. Every at bat, every pitch, it seemed like there was music being played. I have no idea why this was a topic of conversation, but guess what? In the world we live in, it sure was. Was this discussed in the press box, or is this something that you didn't see until after the day after?
It wasn't really discussed. We're kind of used to it for us. For those of us that have been around it for a couple of years now, they really. It was a little bit different in how they did it this weekend because it was a regional, but. At home games, they typically play music like that when between pitches, when the opposing team is pitching, particularly when he's throwing balls and it's in a big moment, that they'll play the "We Like to Party" song every ball. So, it's kind of become commonplace there at Clemson. I know a lot of the older fans don't like it, and I understand it, but me personally, I really don't even hear it anymore. I've become so accustomed to it.
Jason, I'm going to put you in a tough spot here with this question, okay? And the answer truly is I understand that both are absolutely phenomenal. But with what we saw this past weekend at Doug Kingsmore, is the baseball atmosphere now edging out the softball atmosphere at Clemson?
If you can keep the same atmosphere that you've had over the past, particularly this weekend, and get that throughout the entire season, absolutely. It's been a long time since it's been that electric in there. It was electric for the regional last year, particularly then for that Tennessee game. But those two games against Coastal over the weekend, that the place was absolutely rabid. It's been a long time since I've seen it like that. And if you can keep it like that, yeah, there's no question.
Hey, Jason, I plan on being there Sunday, so if you don't mind, make sure Clemson wins on Saturday. That way, Sunday's the deciding game, and that may be the best atmosphere you and I have both seen in quite some time. How about that?
I'll see what I can do for you, man.
We appreciate you coming on with us. Great stuff. Look forward to catching up with you. And for those listening, again, you can follow him on to Omaha. He knows. He absolutely knows. So it should be absolutely a great environment this weekend for Clemson. Florida's a good team. I don't think anyone with a right mind says you can overlook Florida. Okay, Florida's a very good team. Yes, they were inconsistent during the SEC play during the regular season. Still a very good team. Final segment of the show next.
Whether it's on the real field of competition or over your
Wire to wire.
Final segment of the program on this Wednesday afternoon. So glad to have you with us as we get ready tomorrow and Friday for the BMW Charity Pro-Am Golf Tournament. Diesel and I will be there both days, tomorrow at Carolina Country Club in Spartanburg and then on Friday at Thornblade. So if you plan on being there, stop by, say what's up to us, come get a picture with us. We'd love to see you. Let's start this segment off by going to the renewal by Anderson of the Carolinas fan phone. Big Kev weighs in on what we've been talking about today. Big Kev, good to hear from you, man.
What's going on, Phil? How y'all feeling?
We're good. Hope you are.
Hey, man, doing good, man. Hey, man, just tell the callers if you don't want to listen, man, there's a volume button. You just turn it down a little bit. Like, we're going to talk. It may be sports a few seconds. It might be about your cousins and your brothers and the rest of them in the next few minutes. You just never know, man.
Well, on our run sheet, just FYI, Kevin, on our run sheet that Diesel and I do every day, the last segment, it says Big Kev. So we had it planned already.
Hey, I love it. I love it. Hey, man, it's going down tomorrow, man. What y'all think about it?
What's going down? Oh, I know what you're talking about. Dallas versus Boston.
Oh, I thought you were super into the BMW Charity Pro-Am, Kev.
Hey, man, listen. I just want to go and right before he yells, right before he drive off, I just want to go, hey, slow down. That's all I want to do. I'm not going to get kicked out.
You probably would get kicked out for that if I had a guess. Kevin,
we're gonna have to slip somebody 100 just to even get through the gate. Kev.
That's true. We're not even invited. No, I'm kidding. Hey, I'll say this.
Go down the backside of Roebuck, and if you go through the woods on one of them old roads, you probably go in the backyard of it. So.
That's actually true. Actually true. No doubt about it. Kevin, I want Dallas. My heart wants Dallas to win. Obviously, being a Cowboys fan, I'll pull for the Mavericks as well. And, you know, I think they have as good of a shot of winning as Boston does. What concerns me is Boston's deep. Boston plays a lot of ISO ball, and I worry about Dallas's defense when it comes to having the matchup on guys like Porzingis, Jaylen Brown, and then obviously Tatum. If I had to put money on it, Kevin, and I haven't, I'd probably take Boston in 7. Dallas's bench is going to have to step up, man. In my opinion, Lively, I think, will have to have some big games as well. What do you think?
It's gonna take somebody that you hadn't seen all series in their game, and I'm thinking Tim Hardaway Jr. about to come off and shoot the lights out in these finals. It's gonna take somebody new that they hadn't seen, because if Porzingis is coming back, that's gonna be a big deal for them.
Sure.
So Dallas is gonna have to find somebody else that can put points up if Kyrie and Luka are gonna do what they're gonna do. Now, can somebody else step up and put in some points that Boston ain't even thinking about right now? So with that being said, I want Dallas. Boston's been there, and I ain't going to say it's time just because I'm a Lakers fan. It wouldn't bother me if they lose the next 12.
Correct.
But they've been there, and you got to lose it before you win it. So I feel like they might be on to something on this one.
But listen, I agree with you, and they've been right there. It feels like they're due. However, man, like I could argue that Luka is just as due as Jason Tatum, because you can't convince me that Luka's going to finish his career without a ring.
Oh no, he's gonna get one. Now, what I would love to see Dallas do is add another center or somebody next year that can put points up. Like this, it ain't got to be there's somebody that can come in and start taking over, like down low. Cause I mean, Lively and them boys do what they do, but you ain't gonna be able to throw oops every game.
Karl Anthony Towns, maybe,
and handle business. Who's that?
Karl Anthony Towns, maybe.
No, I want nothing else to do with him. No, he just stay where he at, because until he show me he can take over and stop shooting all these threes like he a guard, we got to go down there and put some work in. And that might just be the old school side of me, but you got to go down there and put some work in and throw some elbows and do all that good stuff. You got to put the road work in, man.
For sure. Last thing I'll say about Boston, Dallas, and then I'll let you speak on anything else you wanted to speak on, Kevin. I think that Luka and Kyrie together at their best are almost unstoppable right now. I think the X factor that we're not talking about enough is Kyrie in a good mental spot, in a good physical spot, having a really big chip on his shoulder, wanting to give Boston the business because it just didn't work out there.
Yeah. So this is what I look at from Kyrie. It's time for him to step up defensively. Let me see what you got and really lock in on D this series. And let me see what you got. Because in 16 when he was with Cleveland, I felt like he should have got MVP of the finals that year. I've always argued that just because of what he done. Because if it wasn't for him, they wouldn't have won that thing. So now it's time for him to go get it. Him and Luka, I think they about to go crazy. They are about to go crazy. But hey, 7-on-7 is on its way. You know it's my time. It is my time, man. It's that gridiron time, and it's on its way. And I'm ready to see what these boys are gonna do this year. Everybody from elementary all the way through NFL.
What are you listening when you're talking about football, Kev? Obviously, Diesel and I had a very long conversation earlier in the show today about charter schools. I'd love to hear from our listeners, and we had several text in. What is your stance on charter schools and the way they're popping up and having to get players in a unique fashion?
I think it's a dirty situation. Just honestly, what I think, I could be dead wrong. I just think it's a dirty situation, and I think in a few, like some years down the road, something is not going to come good from this situation. Either the kids, like when they go to college, something ain't going to really transfer or something going to be messed up. But the way they going out and just dragging kids from places that they bled and cried and their families have played there, and you taking these kids down here for what? Just for your own good? Or you really trying to put into these students? Like, you got kids that grew up together from Pee Wee League all the way through high school, and then your junior saying, yeah, somebody drags you away. What about, like, us coming up? Like, if one of my guys leaves me and we done played from Pee Wee ball all the way through together, and you decide it's going to be some furniture moving in this situation. It's going to be some furniture moving. Like, if you don't have a good reason, like, hey, my family moving, or this works out better for my family, it's closer for us to do this and do that, then cool. But just to go because you think the grass is green on the other side, that's never going to work. That's just the same way in a marriage or something like that. You leave because you think the grass is green on the other side.
Yeah,
it's
Kevin,
not.
a hard part of this, what it's going to be is it's going to teach kids that every friendship, every relationship they have is transactional. Everything is who can I spend time with right now that's going to better my position in life right now to get me to the next step. I mean, we've talked about it a long time on this station. You know, which college reunion are some of these guys who transferred 4 or 5 times in college going to go to? Are they going to go to they going to go to a 20th anniversary every 4 years so that they can run through all the places that they made a stop at? I mean, it's crazy.
That's it right there. Like you 20 years down the road, you can't even well, I tell you what, my freshman year at Clemson, I did this. Well, in my sophomore year at Florida State, I did this. Well, my junior year at Notre Dame, I played. So 550 million people, but you don't really have a camaraderie with nobody.
Kevin,
not one person.
Always appreciate your call, man. Talk to you soon, okay?
Fantastic phone call.
Thanks
Kevin,
for the call.
He always brings some big insights, man.
He brings it.
And I appreciate Kevin bringing up that idea, man. These kids are not going to have any. They're not going to know what a friend is. It's just a means to an end. I want
all callers. We have some really good callers, really good texters every single day. Take notes. Kevin's I have to tell you, Big Kev, man, his calls are they're top notch. So if you want to step your game up and be in that top notch tier, you better start listening to Big Kev's call.
So Cole, remember yesterday we were talking about the start of the NHL playoffs? I just found this stat. It'll blow you away. The 2024 Stanley Cup Finals between the Oilers and the Panthers will be the farthest between two cities in NHL history.
No.
At 2,543 miles between cities.
That's fascinating.
Yeah, those are going to be some long flights from Edmonton, Canada, which is up there damn near Alaska.
Yeah.
All the way to Miami and back.
I would just do it in one place.
Yeah, can we meet in the middle? Can we do the series in Indianapolis?
And just stay there.
Yeah.
Really?
Just play the series in Indianapolis.
Screw it. That's a lot of jet fuel, man.
It is, man.
That is
it
a
is.
lot of
How are they going to
fuel.
offset these carbon emissions? That's what I want to know.
Great stuff, man. Fantastic stuff as always. We appreciate you listening. We'll see you tomorrow at Carolina Country Club.